All right, Chairman Howe, whenever you would like, when it turns to 5 o'clock, we are live on YouTube and we are open to the public.
Thank you so much, Phil. Good evening, everyone. The time is now 5 p.m. and the Warwick City Council Finance Committee is now open. There are no minutes to vote on, so we'll go right to item number one. There are items that will be automatically discussed, and the process is we'll discuss those items first, and then after we finish those items, we will then go to open up the docket. And I will call on members of the committee, then members on the committee, and then members of the council and members of the public to identify any items they would like to discuss on this docket. So item number one is 2020-036, disposal of solid wastes and recyclables. Hi, Christy.
Hi. Good evening.
Good evening.
Public Works is requesting to increase the cap on this bid, $299,700 for the disposal of the residential waste we pick up and take to the landfill. And this will carry us through the end of the contract period, which expires June 30th, 2021.
Thank you. Were there any questions from members of the committee? Questions from members of the council? Councilman Lattisaur.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Christie, so we're looking to increase this essentially for about a month in the amount of $300,000, and there's no explanation here other than the fact that you've exceeded that cap. Could you explain a little further about this? You know, we're looking for 300 grand here. I'd like to have a little more information.
So after the April bill, we had $57,173.88 available to us. And then we received the May bill, which was $114,742. And we also received, oh wait, am I saying that wrong? Sorry, that was, hold on, I'm confused now. That was March, April.
Take your time, Christy. That's fine. Take your time.
The April bill was $114,742.60. The May bill is $124,624. So we're looking for $299,700. And we have one more bill that we're expecting to go towards this cap for June, which we won't receive until the end of the month. So and hopefully that'll be the end of it, and then we'll start on our new one.
So the April bid, oh, I'm sorry, the April bill was $114,742.
Correct.
And when did you receive that bill?
It comes via email. It usually goes to purchasing first. I'm not sure exactly what date they receive it on.
Is Pat on from purchasing?
Yes, I am. Those bills come in usually right at around the first couple of days of the month, every given month. They come emailed to us.
All right, so when did you get the bill for April for $114,742?
It was
I
probably.
don't. Go ahead, Christy.
No, I'm asking Pat.
I don't have the bill in front of me. Like I said, it usually comes within the first few days of the month. We have, we get a substantial discount for paying those bills on a timely basis. So my accounts payable person watches every day in the beginning of the month looking for that bill. As soon as we get it, we email it directly to Christy to get it signed off. And then we submit in for payment, because if we get that payment in right away, we get a substantial discount.
And what is the time period of if we get that payment in right away? How many days do you have to get that paid?
20.
20 days?
Yes. If we pay it within the first 20 days, we get a 1.5% discount off the bill.
If you pay it in 20 days from receipt of the bill or from
Yes.
date of the invoice?
Date of the invoice.
Yeah.
Date of the invoice. Yeah, that's kind of how it works in my world. Okay, so why are we not coming to us, or why are we coming to us so late for paying the April bill? That's the first part of the question. And the second part of the question is, have we lost the discount?
We haven't lost the discount. The bills were actually paid. I submitted a request to increase the purchase order to accommodate the balance of this fiscal year. We went through the process, it was approved, and somewhere in between that, we discovered that we didn't actually have enough spending authority. I requested $2.5 million for the beginning of fiscal year 21. So,
That's
so essentially, I'm sorry?
you had gotten $2.5 million, right, of spending authority?
Yes, for July of 20. July of
This says the contract period in the amount of
July of 19.
I'm sorry, 2,500,000 as of July 2019 through June 30th, 2021.
Correct.
Okay. So you've exceeded that spending authority, and you're telling us now that you've paid the bill without council approval?
That's correct. The bill's been paid.
So how does that happen?
Honestly, Councilman, I've been working by myself in my office for the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 months. So I'm doing the best that I can to keep up on absolutely everything that my department requires as a whole. And it's not just 1 or 2 divisions, it's all of them. And I work closely with purchasing, and we do our best to make sure that we have the same information, but there again, they've also been swamped. So this was just a complete, it was an oversight. It wasn't anything malicious. We weren't trying to, do anything underhanded. And it was after the bill was paid for April that we discovered that there wasn't enough spending authority, which is why we immediately took the steps to put it on the docket.
Christie, I'm not insinuating that there was anything malicious or nefarious. I'm asking questions because I know the answer to the May invoice of $124,000. The answer to that is going to be we've already paid that as well. I'm assuming, is that correct?
I did sign the purchase order. I don't think it's gone, the check hasn't been generated yet, but yes.
So
it was my fault. It was my fault. I was an oversight on my part. I exceeded the cap, the spending authority, and now I'm asking to make it right so we can pay the bills for the residential waste.
So on your own, you agreed or you authorized payment or paid one invoice of $115,000 without council approval. And now we're talking about another invoice that has been approved without council approval. That's what we're saying.
The first one was approved and paid, we didn't realize at that time that there wasn't enough spending authority in the cap. So it was completely an oversight. Then we discovered that we have not paid May's bill yet. I did sign off on it. So when we got approval for this tonight, it can immediately go into the payday. So we can still get our discount.
Thank you, Christie. I'm going to interject here for a minute, Councilman, if you don't mind. I see that Councilman Gebhardt, I see your hand is up, but if you don't mind, Councilman, may I go to Mr. Schaefer? Thank you. Mr. Schaefer, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, just remember, there's no other alternative vendor. This is flow control in the state. You have to take your waste to the central landfill. The budget that you approved a week ago Thursday has a projection of spending. This purchase order change reflects that change in that total year spending. The purchase order is for 2-year purchase order. our projection was for 1 year. And I think, Christie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're going to end up approximately what the council approved as the expenditure plan in 21, as the projected spending.
I believe so.
So I have a question. How could that be when the spending authority was $2,500,000 for a 2-year period, 125,000, one would assume 125,000 in the first year, 125,000 in the second year. So what we're saying is it didn't exceed the 125,000 in 2020 fiscal year, but it did exceed it in 2021. I just want to clean that up. So the bottom line is we're spending more than $2,500,000 in the 2-year period. I just want to clarify the numbers. That's all. What we're spending is $2,800,000, right?
Councilman, excuse me, in fiscal year 20, which was last year, which was the first year of this contract, we spent $1,319,857.85.
Okay.
So yes, we went over the $1.25 million that we would have spent for the first year. But our tipping fee bills are a moving target all the time. You know, it goes by tonnage. Some months aren't as heavy as others. February in particular is usually lower than the rest of the months, but that's only because we're short a couple of days than the rest of the months. So we do our best to anticipate. And when we originally asked for the award on this bid, we knew what we had in the budget code. So we multiplied it by 2 because it was a 2-year bid. So now we're at the end of the second year and the expiration of the bid, and we are exceeding that cap that we requested. It's not, and as Peter said, we don't have a choice. By law, we have to go to the landfill to dump our waste.
I understand. I understand all of that. I deal with the landfill and the tipping fees and the dump charges every day. So I understand it. Okay, I'm all set.
Thank you. Councilman Gebhardt, thank you.
I think Mr. Schaefer just answered my question. My question was, given that we're raising the, we need to spend a little bit more this year, does next year's budget, are we cool on next year's budget based on where our actual utilization is going to be on this year?
That's your question directed towards Mr. Schaefer or Ms.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mr. Schaefer, I think is good.
Christie gave us quite detailed information on tonnage by month. We thought back in January we were going to be running a deficit here because, people were eating at home more. But as we got closer to the end of the year, it looks to be we're going to be right on target as to what was budgeted. And for next year, I think they did a pretty meticulous job of looking at what the tonnage would be per month for 12 months. There's going to be there's a new contract for next year. And Christie, remind me of the rate next year.
The regular tonnage is still 47, but if I'm not mistaken, I think they increased our over the cap tonnage. However, they also increased our cap for next year too. So we may not.
But the second year of the contract, there is an increase. Is that correct?
It's $54 a ton.
$54 a ton. The second year of the 2-year contract.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, got it. I mean, it's a difficult one to control for us. Good for everyone to keep in mind what they put in there.
I will tell you that they originally wanted to go to $53 July 1st. And the mayor of North Providence serves on the board, and I think he was successful in getting them to delay that for a year.
Okay. Thanks for the info. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Schaefer, thank you. Christie, thank you. We certainly realize you also had the Parks and Rec put back in your lap also, so you were doing quite a bit. So it's understood, and I think your explanation was spot on. And I actually, you don't think about it, but I think Peter said it perfectly, where he said, you didn't know what to expect with this moving target because people are eating at home. They're not, it's not the regular process that you would think that we would have. So, but thank you very much. Are there any other questions from members of the council? Questions from the public? I see there are no one from the public. So if I may have a motion.
No.
Oh, correction. No, I don't do that.
Nope.
I don't do that. You can shut your camera off, Billy. Thank you, Vinny. All right, next item number 2 is 2022-050 Munis Support and Update License. You have the floor, Mr. Phil.
This is a request under City Ordinance 56-6, exception to bid to award the Munis software maintenance contract to Tyler Technologies as a sole source in the amount of $225,123.39. The Munis package is the city's ERP system. It runs all of the major financial systems, and it runs most of the other support systems that we use. This covers the maintenance and all upgrades to it. I did want to mention that this year we will have another maintenance bill come due in, I believe, about 2 or 3 months. That bill is going to be for cashiering. Earlier this year, it was approved that the finance department, treasury, and the collector's office all negotiated that we actually got a $30,000 plus module free of charge, the cashiering module. The cashiering module was part of a plan. If we use the Tyler services for payments, they would throw that in for free. That's going to run its course, and then we'll have to pay a maintenance charge on top of that. I believe that charge is going to be about $5,300 in that vicinity. I will then try to align this with the rest of the package. I mentioned that specifically because I did want to tell everyone that one of the issues we ran into with this free cashiering module is that to take full advantage of the functionality of it, we have to be on the new version of Munis. And I mentioned at the budget hearings that I've delayed that as prudently as possible, as long as I could. And we are going to be endeavoring a upgrade to, I think it's version 2019 of the Munis package. When we pay maintenance each year for these modules, even the ones that we aren't using, we get that upgrade free of charge. Basically, we get the added functionality at no additional charge. So Councilman Gebhardt and I had an exchange. He had some great questions about, are there any of these modules that we could do away with? And we have tried that along the lines to, if we're not using it, can we jettison it? But since Munis then charges you to reacquire it if you want to use it in the future, they don't let you put it on hiatus. There are a couple modules that we're really close to being able to use that are going to really help efficiency and effectiveness in the city, but we need the new version of it. So it's just a dollars and cents call that it's better to pay the $5,000-ish maintenance charge so that we don't have to pay. I think one of the modules is $120,000 now. We originally paid $30,000 for it. If we were to buy it again, it'd be $120,000. After we've gone through one iteration of this, we will be taking a look once again at everything. And if there's stuff that we're not using, we will jettison it so we don't pay the maintenance on it.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate that. And thank you for the time you've taken to talk to the members of this committee and council that reached out on this to educate us. Are there any questions from the committee? Questions or comments from the council? Questions or comments from the public? Okay. Item number 3. Thank you, Phil. There we go. Item number 3, 2021-373, State of Rhode Island Catch Basin Cleaning Video and DVD. Christy.
Public Works is requesting to piggyback the state bid for the catch basin cleaning and the video and DVDing of certain structures with International Paving Corporation in the amount of $100,000 for a period that ends June 30th, 2023. This will allow us to supplement our own catch basin cleaning program. As you know, we asked for a new vehicle for that particular purpose. We went out to bid. We didn't receive any bids. We are still limping through with the vehicle that we have, but we do fall behind. And this is actually one of the requirements of the consent agreement with DEM. So we are looking to get this, assuming it's approved tonight, we'll get this rolling by next week.
Thank you so much, Christy. I'm just catching up on a little bit. Hold on one second, reviewing a few notes. Okay. Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the council? Councilman Lattisaw.
Thank you, Chairman. So, Christie, I have some recall on this particular item. This actually, if I'm not mistaken, this goes back to Mayor Avedisian when DEM was either beginning to fine us or was going to begin fining the city for not complying with their directives regarding the drainage and infrastructure issues. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And are we in compliance, or let me rephrase that. Have we been in compliance with that agreement that was entered into back when Mayor Avedisian was mayor?
I don't know the specifics of that agreement, but we have one vehicle. It's an old vehicle that we use right now to clean the catch basins when it's in service. It was just down for a few weeks. We had to fix it. And we have one person on staff that does the catch basin cleaning. So we usually have one person with a laborer that goes out and does this. And this would allow us to catch up on like the high priority areas, like around the ponds and other water bodies that DEM is, most specifically concerned with, but the project as a whole for the entire city. It's not just those specific areas, but in an effort to make sure that we comply with their consent agreement so they don't fine us, we're asking to piggyback the state's bid.
Not questioning the need for the equipment, questioning whether or not we've been in compliance. And I believe you were here at the time when this all took place. And at that particular meeting, when DEM was at the meeting, Mayor Avedisian was at the meeting. I'm not sure if Eric Earls was there at the time. I think possibly, but my concern back then was whether or not DPW was going to be able to keep up with the very aggressive time frame that you had to do this. My concern was not having anyone from DPW getting thrown under the bus because you couldn't adhere to that time frame. And that's not saying anything negative towards DEM, because DEM was extremely patient with the city of Warwick for that issue. And the city had not complied after numerous requests to do so. So that's why I'm asking the questions.
I don't know the specifics to the agreement and what it reads. I can certainly reach out to the director and ask him to contact you tomorrow to bring you up to speed on that. But
your department, let's say up until the end of 2020, you were, as far as I know, keeping up with those mandates pretty well. Is that an accurate statement?
I honestly, I wouldn't want to confirm that if it's not correct. I know that we do catch basin cleaning in-house. We do have mechanical issues with the vehicle, so we can't do it as regularly as we would. But as far as any other projects, I'm not sure if there's, I don't know what was done, wasn't done So I really would hate to give you the wrong information.
Okay. Now, I know that your department was really put under the gun at that particular time frame, and through no fault of your own or the department's. Do you know what that contract that we had with DEM to fulfill that commitment? Do you know what the expiration date is of that contract?
I don't. I'm not sure that if it expires or not.
Oh, we had a date. There was a date certain that this all had to be.
That I'm not sure of.
Okay, maybe Eric can just, check on that for me tomorrow too. And I think you already answered this last question. Has the city been fined at all from DEM since the last directive from DEM took place?
Not to my knowledge.
Council had to vote on, by the way.
Not to my knowledge. We haven't been fined.
Okay. Okay. All right, I think that's all we have. I'd like to add that, to my knowledge, you guys have been doing the best that you can with trying to fulfill, that obligation for what I considered back then, which was a really heavy lift for your department, considering what had been ignored for many, many years, not by your department either. So I appreciate, the efforts that you're putting into this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments or questions from the council? Comments or questions from the public? There are none attending. So that was the last item. Now we'll get to the docket. Thank you so much, Christy.
Thank you.
Now we'll get to the bid package where all items are 50,000 and below. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to request that for me, I'm going to go through the committee, the council, then the public to see if there's any items that people would like put aside for discussion. Starting with me, I would like to pull aside item number 12. I'll need a PCR. That's bid 2022-015. Major Lima and I had a conversation today. So Joanne, what would be the first PCR, please?
Nope, it's me. It's PCR 8621.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lynn. I don't know why I said, what is it again?
PCR 8621.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I requested that item number 12 be PCR'd. Is there any items from the committee that the committee requests be identified for discussion? Okay, Councilman Gebhardt.
Can we do item 15 and item 9?
Item 15 and item 9. We will discuss item 15 and item 9. Yes, thank you, Councilman.
Yep, thank you.
Were there any other items from members of the committee? Councilman, are your hands still up or is that just? Okay. Are there any items from members of the council that would like to have taken? Council President McAllister.
Thank you. I believe Mr. Walsh is going to speak on something. So go ahead, Mr. Walsh, because I think we're good on the same page.
Chairman, I just wanted to clarify. So for item 12 that you're assigning PCR 8621, is the intent to be pulling this off of the consent calendar itself, or is this part of just an item slated for discussion?
Oh, I apologize. It is meant to, I might have jumped the gun on calling the PCR. It's got to be amended per request. There was a misprint between the department to the purchasing department. So,
Okay, so
the requested amount is different from what what the actual stated amount is.
so I would just suggest then, if now that it's assigned to PCR and we're pulling it off, if we want to complete that before moving on to other items.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay,
Clean house that way, if that's your pleasure.
will do. No, absolutely. All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr.
Councilman.
President.
Yeah, that was gonna be my suggestion. We take each one individually. So
Got it.
we don't have to call them out. We can just take them each individually. So,
Okay, sounds
Thank
good. Thank you. Before I continue, Councilman Gebhardt, if you can give me 1 second. Christy, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I need to amend one of my 612s.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll take the recommendation of the solicitor. Thank you so much. I'll call on you. We're gonna, because I already assigned a PCR to one item. I'm gonna discuss this and then I'll go back and I'll call on the more items, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much. So just to catch everyone up, I pulled item number 12 and I asked for a PCR and I didn't give a reason and I should have waited till we actually discussed the item, but because the item was already given a PCR, we'll go ahead and have the discussion. Very simply, in the statement on the item number 12, which is found on page 116, formerly it's bid 2022-015. The written request in our bid package is 10,000. The police requested that be amended to 4,000. It was just a simple misprint. Am I correct, Major Lima?
Yes, sir, that's correct. We're only requesting $4,000.
Thank you so much, Major. So moving forward, are there any questions from the committee concerning that item? Any questions from the council? Any questions from the public? So just solicitor, make sure I do this correctly, Billy. We don't vote on this now. We just move on. It's got a PCR, correct?
No, it would be in order at this time to,
All right.
if it's the pleasure to move the amendment,
got it.
and then subsequently vote on as amended, so that would individually go to the council.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so item number 12 was bid 2022-015 is now PCR 86-21. And may I have a motion to amend the thank you, from 10,000 to 4,000? Thank you. I had a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you so much. Okay, now to, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now, as amended for PCR 8621 to amend from 10,000 to 4,000.
Motion, favorable action.
As
Second.
amended, I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all so much. Okay, so now it would be wise, Solicitor Walsh, it would be wise for me to continue asking members of the council if they have anything to identify, and then the public, and then we will discuss each item.
Yes, if there's other ones that have modifications, that it's
When we get
likely
to
that
it.
we're gonna have to do them, so
Yep.
those would be, moved earlier, that'd be great.
Okay, you got it. Okay, are there any other, I've had 2 requests, item number 9 and item number 15. Are there any other items that, Councilman Gebhardt?
16. Sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier.
No worries. And Christy, if I may ask, what item did you ask us to address?
I think it's number 16.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Is that the 2021-034?
Yes, it is.
Implement? Yeah, okay, yeah, it's that one.
Thank you. Are there any other items? All right, any item, Councilman Lattisaur. You're muted, Councilman.
Thank you, Chairman. Item number 17, please.
Item number 17, bid number 2021-383. Thank you. Any other items from members of the council? Any items from the public? Does the public request to discuss any items on the bid package? Seeing none, we will first go to item number 9, bid 2021-346, less lethal shotgun and accessories. Councilman Gebhardt, I'll pass it to you since you asked it to be pulled.
Major, thanks for jumping in on this one. I just had a quick question about the deployment. Is this a new deployment of a new technology for us, or is this something that's already in use? Is this, are we piloting? Is this part of a long-term program, or can you give us a little more background on that?
Yeah, so just our sergeant cars right now have the less lethal shotguns in them. All of our other cruisers have normal shotguns. What we found was we weren't using the normal shotguns at all. In an effort to get another less lethal platform out, we're converting all of those shotguns to less lethal shotguns. And then we're going to still have some of the normal shotguns now in the sergeant cars as well. So basically the entire fleet, every car will have the less lethal capability when they're on a call.
Got it. And Major, I researched these a little bit. So it seems that these can accommodate either kind of munition, the less lethal or like the sort of normal munition. So they have both options. Is that correct?
They can, correct, which is why they're designed differently. There's on the fore end, it's completely orange. It's very identifiable as not being a normal shotgun. And then the ammunition will be kept separately. That's why all the ammunition for the less lethal will be kept actually up in the cruiser itself, where the normal shotguns will be kept in the trunk area separate from the other platform.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions from members of the committee? Questions from members of the council? Councilman Lattisaur.
Thank you, Chairman. Major, what's the difference between a less lethal shotgun and a regular shotgun?
The less lethal shotguns, basically it has a round, they call it a rubber fin rocket. It's kind of, it's a hard plastic that gets expelled once the round is shot off. It's meant not to kill anybody. It's meant to basically stop them from doing whatever they're doing. It's kind of like an OC spray would or a taser. We don't want to always have that lethal capability out there. We have those with our firearms. We want more platforms and weapon systems where we can, resolve a situation without causing death.
The less lethal shotgun, is this a pump action shotgun, a double barrel shotgun?
Yes, it's a pump action. It fits. Basically, we're going to take our shotguns that we have now, and we're just going to retrofit and change them out with the pieces that we want to purchase on this bid.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Major.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there any other questions or comments from members of the council? Questions or comments from members of the public? Questions or comments from members of the public? Thank you. There's no more discussion. We'll move on to the next item. Item number 15, bid 2009-280. That is found on page 145. On page 145, HVAC maintenance and repair for city-owned buildings. Oh, wait, correction. I said 15 next. 2009-280 East Greenwich Yard Waste. I apologize. I looked one line down. Item number 15 is 2009-280 East Greenwich Yard Waste Pilot Program, found on page 145. Found on page 145. And I believe it was Councilman Gebhardt?
It was. Yep.
Please, you have the floor.
Chris, I was just hoping to get a little more information about how this program works. Does the city bear any cost for running this program? I'm assuming that these we take delivery of the yard waste from East Greenwich. I also see that there's a revenue opportunity here, but can you just tell us a little bit more about the program?
So this program has been in place for quite some time. What happens is East Greenwich picks up their yard waste. They have a limited cap at the landfill. And we have obviously the ability to, with our own compost facility, and we also have a yard waste cap at the landfill. What this does is East Greenwich collects their yard waste. They take their truck to the North Kingston the transfer station. They get their truck weighed. They bring it to us. we get the slip with the weight on it. And we bill them once a month for however much they brought us. And no, it doesn't cost us anything. And I have to say also at the mayor's request, we reached out to them to approach them about increasing it $1 a ton. And they agreed. So we'll, instead of $12.50 a ton, it will now go to $13.50 a ton.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman. Was there anyone else on the committee that would wish to ask a question addressing item bid number 2009-280? Any members of the council wish to discuss bid number 2009-280? Councilman Lattisaur.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I actually didn't have a specific question until Councilman Gebhardt made me think of a couple. So at $13.50 a ton, this generates revenue of $8,000. Does this compost that they're bringing to us, is that what the residents of Warwick typically would pick up and use as mulch? Is that what happens to it? I'm not quite sure what happens once we take possession of it.
It's the same thing, the same process that we go through with our own yard waste that we pick up. It gets ground and then it gets screened. And yes, we do have, it is available and we do sell. It's kind of a win-win for the city of Warwick because we do sell material from the compost facility, which actually comes up later. But it's not, we only take up to 600 ton. We don't take any more than that. And the sanitation department's very good about keeping track of where their tonnage is. And I don't think we've ever gone over it, as far as I know. So, but it's not we actually get the tonnage from East Greenwich as well as whatever we sell.
So this is nothing that impacts us with tipping fees at the landfill or anything like that, right? That just sits right there in our home port, so to speak.
Right.
And how often does East Greenwich come into our facility to empty this stuff?
It depends on, I think, on what they pick up. Sometimes we get, a couple slips a week. Sometimes we might get 5. Their town is not nearly as big as Warwick, obviously, so they don't generate as much as we do. But I mean, it's not like they're sending a dozen trucks a day. It's nothing like that.
And when they do bring this material to us, is someone from DPW needed to be there to receive it, or did they simply drop off a load slip, drop off, dump the materials and they're on their way? Or
there's always somebody at the compost facility. So when they come in, they do give the load slip to whoever is working out there, and then they turn it into the office. And that's how we keep track. We obviously don't have a scale out there, but it does get weighed in North Kingston. So.
Okay. So we have a staff person on duty there essentially 7 hours a day, regardless of whether East Greenwich comes in with anything or not, right?
Yes.
Okay. You've cleared up my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any other questions from members of the council concerning bid number 15? Are there any questions from members of the public? Any questions from members of the public? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 16, bid number 2021-034, found on page 154, HVAC maintenance and repair for city-owned buildings. The council person who requested this be discussed. Councilman Gebhardt.
That was me, but I'll yield to Christie because I think she also wanted to amend this.
Yes. All right.
I do. We were initially going to ask for a $20,000 increase on the cap of this bid. However, after the multitude of phone calls I received today, we really need to increase it a little bit more in anticipation of things to come. So what I'd like to do is amend this request from $20,000 to $35,000. I have 5 buildings right now that have cooling issues. Some of them involve MIS equipment. Well, one of them does. One of them is Buttonwoods. There's an issue at Station 1. There's an issue at the police station and an issue at Station 10. So we need the spending authority to have our vendor go out and take care of these issues.
Okay.
And they just seem to keep coming with the change in the weather and it, you know, the air conditions failing.
So you're looking for an overall increase, and I'm sorry, I'm flipping through all my papers here. From the original request was, oh, for crying out
It would
loud.
have capped out at $60,000.
Yep.
So I'm asking for it to cap out at 75,000. We've already spent the 40,000 that we were not originally. It went 20 and then we asked for another 20 and then we were going to ask for another 20, but now I'm asking for 35. So,
Got it.
but the other dollar amount that you see on the paperwork, there is an allotment of the same bid that is specifically for McDermott Pool.
Yep.
So that I know it says from 130 to 150,000, but $90,000 of those monies is specifically for McDermott Pool, so we can't use them for these other buildings.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So we identify the item. You're asking that it be pulled to be amended. So I would assume it's going to be PCR 87-21, correct, Lynn?
That's correct. That's correct.
Thank you so much. PCR 87. So understand we'll discuss this now, but we will, upon discussion, we'll then also have a vote to amend and then go through. So, Councilman Gebhardt, members of the committee, are there any questions on bid 2021-034, now PCR 8721? Okay.
This would,
No, yes, please.
thank you, Chair. No, I asked for this to be pulled out because I think this is now the second or third time we've revisited this particular one that originally came in related to the pool. Oh, thank you. I got a reminder to start my video. So you were just describing, we've got a few active issues at various city buildings. I remember that some of these repairs previously were coming out of a building bond. Is that accurate?
Not these repairs. The building bond is for projects related to improvements on the infrastructure and not for general repair.
Okay, got it.
So that's what this bid is for.
Okay, got it. And then the units that you just mentioned, had those, do you know when the last PMs were for any of those units?
Well, the maintenance supervisor was going through some of the stuff, but in the meantime, like he was trying to schedule one for Station 1, he was trying to schedule one for the police station. We do have an issue at City Hall in the server room that they have there now that needs to be rectified. Buttonwoods went, part of the issue was from the accident last week, but there's another issue with a split unit that's not working properly. Station 10 is having issues, not 100% sure what's going on there. Station 1 is limping along, but it's not working efficiently at all. And there's a small MIS hub room in the Cooper building that is right now being cooled by one of those portable window units that you vent outside, which is not sufficient. So we need to have that fixed as well.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I mean, when these 90-degree days come up, your underperforming units always perform worst. Just, prioritize as best you can, because it won't be 90 degrees every day. And wherever we can avoid the costly emergency repair and, get the units going through our regular maintenance cycle, obviously is better. But yeah, I'm not surprised your phone wasn't ringing a lot today. I work in this field, so our support center was also going wild today. But it'll calm down by Wednesday.
I hope so.
All right, thanks.
Thank you so much, Councilman. I say this like, jokingly and half-heartedly, but I work in a 100-year-old brick building that is like a backyard stove. And today it was 92 degrees in my classroom today. And there was no, so I'm hearing these conversations about, oh yeah, the AC and like, it's awfully hot. And I'm going, yeah, I know how I would love just to be able to turn a knob and fix that. But I do understand it shouldn't be, just because it's something that, some people have to tolerate doesn't mean it should be tolerated. So, especially in modern technology. Any other questions from the members of the committee? Questions from members of the council? Councilman Lattisaur.
Thank you, Chairman. If it makes you feel any better, the AC unit in my office has been down. This is going on almost I think it's the second full week that it's been down. And try to get an AC repairman, right? Anyone to come out and take care of things right now is pretty challenging. But anyhow, Christie, this one I'm a bit confused with. I think Pat's still on. Mr. Chair, I'm going to make a request. If you recall, I don't remember when this stopped happening, but in the past, when the additional copy of any resolutions or bids, were given to us so we could have a reference point, the item, in this case, maintenance and repair for city-owned buildings, this one happened to be the very first one on the copy sheet. But up until recently, there would be an asterisk put alongside of that, and it would just make it easier for us to flip through these pages to identify, which particular one related to the current item that's before us. And sometimes when we have 20 or more of these bids, just saves a little bit of time. So if we could go back to that and just put an asterisk alongside of it. But Christie, I'm confused because there's documents in here that I don't know how they relate to this item. So you're looking for bid 2021-034. You're looking to increase the cap, and also on page 159 of our binder is a copy of HVAC maintenance and repair for city-owned buildings. And this one is referencing PCR 20-21. It speaks to last action taken approved on February 4th, 2021, in the amount of $80,000. And I'm not sure how this ties into what you're looking for or what it even means. So could you clarify that for me?
So those requests, the ones that you just referenced, the last action taken, there's a chunk of this award that is specifically allocated to McDermott Pool. With all the issues that we've had over there, it was more prudent for us to keep it under the same bid with our vendors, but keep it separate because of the issues that were going on at the pool. They were very expensive, and it was getting muddy trying to keep track of the bid with the expenses we had for the pool and then just general repairs that we needed to do. So of the $130,000 that we have right now as spending authority that was awarded by the council, $90,000 of that is specific to McDermott Pool. So we only have right now $40,000 for all our city buildings we're responsible for. So we've hit that mark. We're asking for another $35,000 tonight, which will
Okay.
cap it out at $75,000 for city buildings. But there's only about $29,000 left for McDermott at this point, but
Okay, I'm still confused, and I can't make the numbers correlate. So on, again, page 159, on February 4th, 2021, there was an approval in the amount of $80,000. Then on March 4th, 2021, a month later, it said the above was awarded by the city council in the amount of $100,000. $60,000 was designated to the expenses of McDermott Pool. Then it goes down further. Please consider this memo request for section 6-12, alteration of contract of the city charter, increase the cap specific to McDermott Pool to $90,000, an increase of $30,000. So the increase of 30 was on top of the 60.
specifically for McDermott Pool.
So what was the approval of 80,000 for on February 4th?
That was in part, it was $60,000 for the pool and $20,000 for the city buildings. And I think at that time, I may have amended that one.
I don't
Not
see no
100%.
amendment. I don't see no amendment.
I'm not sure, but that's what that was. So when it comes down to it, after we go through the whole process, February 4th, yes, we were approved for $80,000. $20,000 was for city buildings. The balance was for McDermott Pool. And then I asked for another $30,000 back in
March 4th, 2021.
right, which was for McDermott Pool, which puts McDermott's cap at $90,000. And then the city cap at $40,000, which gives you the 130.
Okay. All right, I think I see how you tied that all together now. Okay, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions from members of the council on item number, bid number 2021-034? Now PCR 8721. Any questions from members of the public? Any questions from members of the public? Thank you. So we have a request to amend from 20,000 to increase it to 35,000. And so if I may have a motion to amend.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I saw your lips move, Councilman Foley. You did do a second, correct?
Second.
Thank you. And Matt, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, so if I can now have a motion as amended.
Motion favorable action as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. All right, the next item that was requested is item number 17, bid number 2021-383, found on page 161. It is the Pilgrim Senior Center kitchen repairs. I saw that Miss Underwood was online, and I want to give her an opportunity.
That's my bid.
Oh, I'm sorry, Christy. I apologize. I just.
If Meg wants to speak to it, though, she's more than welcome.
No. We'll. So I believe it was Councilman Lattisaur, but I'll start if you don't mind, Councilman. Members of the committee, if you don't mind, I'll go right to Councilman Lattisaur, and if you have follow-up questions, we'll do that. Correct? Thank you so much, Councilman Lattisaur. You're up.
Thank you. Christy, the only question I have is in the middle of your position paper, it says Public Works would like to do the same, which is refrigeration with Marshall Electric for the purpose of repairs that may be required. at the Pilgrim Center. What are the repairs that you anticipate being needed for this request of $10,000?
Well, it's my understanding, I was just informed week before last, I think the end of the week before the holiday, that they were reinstating the hot meals being served on July 12th. And there's some issue with the dishwasher. So we can't
All right,
have them
thank you.
serve meals without a.
Bailing Christie out of things. Oops.
Mr. Schaefer? All right, go ahead. Sorry, Christie, go ahead.
So in an effort to, and they haven't been serving hot meals and things out of the kitchen since COVID. This really hasn't been a concern. They've been delivering meals, but now that they're going to reinstate that program, we need to make sure that our kitchen is up to Department of Health standards. And our dishwasher is not. Or I should say their dishwasher is not.
Yeah, right. And so what other things are, and perhaps someone from Pilgrim Senior Center might be able to better address this. What other items do they anticipate, they'll need?
At this point, Councilman, it is just the dishwasher that is in ill repair. Quite frankly, although the caterers are hoping to go back to hot meals as of, actually it's been postponed a week. Christy, you have the right information, but it's they've pushed it back a week. We recently lost our kitchen manager, and so until that position is replaced, we will not be able to do that, but hopefully that we will be able to replace that person in time. But right now, the sanitizer on the dishwasher is not working. And so it is not up to health department code until that happens. In terms of how much that's going to cost, I have no idea.
And as well, the refrigerator obviously has to maintain a certain temperature, and if that fails, we need to be able to call on one of these companies to come and fix this, or we have to, cancel the meal program.
Sure. No, I'm asking so that we can have a comfort level of what the Pilgrim Senior Center needs. I know that kitchen is very important for many, many of our seniors. It's something that, they look forward to, the hot meals, et cetera, even with visiting the Pilgrim Senior Center. So, Meg, do you foresee anything else in terms of, a larger item like a dishwasher or a refrigerator that potentially could be a problem for you over there?
I don't think so. Councilman, we have a walk-in freezer and a walk-in refrigerator. They are both working okay. There has been a long standing issue with the walk-in refrigerator, but I think the roof repairs that were done last year resolved those problems for the most part. We did have the folks in to do an inspection today. I am praying I don't lose my battery on my iPad. They came in to do an inspection of the suppression equipment around the stove. There were a few minor issues. Christy can probably speak to that once she gets the report that's not in yet. So they will be, it's a subcontractor working for Rustic, and apparently there were a few small problems, but it didn't sound as though it was anything extraordinary in terms of cost of repairs.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Meg. Thank you, Christy. I'm all set, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Members of the committee, questions or follow-up? Thank you. Members of the council, any questions or follow-up? Thank you. Members of the public, are there any questions or comments from members of the public? There are none. Thank you so much, Christy. Thank you so much, Ms. Underwood, Meg.
My pleasure.
And so now all discussion on the consent calendar has concluded. If I may have a motion to accept for favorable action on the consent calendar.
Move for favor.
We'll go with Ward 1. I have a move for favorable. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Are we legal there, Mr. Walsh?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest one last call for any other comments in case people join late, but it looks like the same participants.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right, I'll do that. I will do that later. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. I'll do that the next time. And there's nothing on the further in the meeting, so the time is now 6:04, and the Finance Committee has concluded. Thank you all.
Next up, we have the Ordinance Committee. This is Chairman Sinapi, Councilman McElroy, and Councilman Ricks, and it's in order to proceed.
All right, I see Councilman Ricks. And there's Councilman McElroy. Let me just pull up my agenda. So ordinance will convene at 6:05 p.m. There are no minutes to accept. First item before us is PCO 5-21, ordinance in regards to authority of the council regarding the addition, removal, or significant alteration of streetlights. This is second passage, and it's me. This speaks for itself. We've all been getting updates from Lucas Murray on it. So, request second passage. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Any questions or comments from members of the council? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Speaking of which, let me pull up my attendees list. I see no hands. Any questions or comments from members of the public? All right, seeing none, I'd move favorable action.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have PCO 15-19, sub A, an ordinance regarding health insurance for city employees. This is Councilman Lattiser. This would be first passage as amended. Councilman
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I would like to request favorable action for discussion.
As in you want it moved to the floor for discussion purposes?
We can begin discussion right here in committee, or you can move to the floor for, let's move to the floor for full discussion.
All right, Attorney Conley, are you on?
I am.
Hello, sir. A quick question for you. Did you or your office draft this ordinance?
Yes, we did.
All right. And does it comply with state law?
There are, if we're gonna have the discussion now, I'd be happy to identify for you. There are concerns with state law in actually two respects. The Rhode Island general law regarding collective bargaining identify the subject of this ordinance as a term and condition of the work and subject and specifically subject to collective bargaining. The passage of an ordinance that essentially abrogates what's been collectively bargained between the municipal corporation and the union would be subject to an unfair labor practice action.
Got it. Any questions or comments from members of the committee?
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Well, hold on one second, Councilman Lattiser. Councilman Ricks?
Actually, on second thought, I'll reserve my comments for after the sponsor of the bill speaks.
Already. Councilman Lattiser?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Chairman. Hearing those comments from our council solicitor, I will move to hold until January 1st and will reach out to the solicitor for further discussion before requesting any action.
All right, that makes sense. Do we have any motions to hold?
Move to hold to, let's see, was there? I'm
June
sorry.
21st.
Rather than a date certain of January 1, I'm not sure we'll be meeting on New Year's Day. Would it be appropriate, perhaps, if it's at your pleasure, to put it in the pending file so it can be called back at the next call?
I said June 21st, not January 1st.
Oh, I
also-
apologize. I misheard.
Yeah, same. Sorry.
For
Move to
January.
hold to June 21st.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now that I think about it, Councilman, you're aware the drafting deadline is tomorrow at noon, correct?
Okay, good point, Chairman.
Thank
so
you.
let's move to, let's go to July 19th. That's fine.
Move to reconsider the previous motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Have at
Move
it.
to hold to July 19th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alrighty. Where'd my agenda go? Next, we have PCO 11-21, an ordinance amending section 10-8 of the City of Warwick Code of Ordinances, adding a prohibition on the sale of gasoline products, there we go. Third try. To unregistered off-road recreational vehicles, first passage not drafted. Yeah, unfortunately, our request for enabling legislation has not yet been acted on. So that's why this is still hanging out. It actually is already written. But I have to move to hold it unless and until the enabling legislation is passed, given again that the deadline is tomorrow at noon. Let's go for, I'd like to hold this till July 19th. So move to hold till that date, please.
Chairman, if I may, I would
Absolutely.
suggest that in the event that the enabling legislation is passed up until really any point before the OMA deadline, which would be, I suppose, let's see, I suppose anytime before approximately Thursday, June 17th. So if it's passed sometime in the next 9 or 10 days, then that may give us an opportunity to have it heard on June 21st. And I see that the city clerk wishes to speak.
Your rules say you get your stuff 10 days before. So, I mean, that's up to, maybe you should reconsider your rules. We can change that. If it's 10 days before and everybody's getting it before, I don't know if you want me amending it 48 hours before.
A fair point.
That, I mean, your choice, just thought I would add that.
So I'll stick to the motion to hold till July 19th.
Thank you.
Very well. I'll,
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
All right. And fingers crossed we do actually, all right, but actually get it done by then. Otherwise it will increasingly become not as applicable. Next, we have PCR 80-21, an ordinance ratifying the Warwick Retirement Systems engagement of Block and Leviton LLP in connection with the plenary breach of fiduciary duty derivative action against certain of Facebook's officer and directors in Delaware's Court of Chancery. Council President.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is on behalf of the administration. They want to enter into this lawsuit and they need authority from the city council to do that. So I ask for favorable action. Again, this just adds us in there and then it goes to court.
Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Any questions or comments from members of the council? Any questions or comments from members of the public? I see no hands. So do you have a motion?
Move favorable action.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next we have, wait, that might be it. Lynn, am I wrong or are we done?
You're done.
All right, ordinance concludes at 6:14 PM.
Thank you.
Next up this evening is the Public Safety Committee. We have Chairman Foley, Councilman Ricks, Councilman McElroy. And it's in order to proceed.
Lynn, you're not muted, FYI.
Sorry.
It's all right.
I was muted. Open the meeting at 6:15. First item is minutes. There are none. Second item. Resolution relative to claims, and the first claim, and I just, there we go, is item number 1. Thomas McGovern hit a pothole on Kilvert. The recommendation is to deny due to timeliness, but I looked through the records and he did submit this back in November and got lost in the shuffle. So I'm looking for favorable action in the amount of $300, which is our limit for a pothole.
I would make that motion, and I would concur with Chairman Foley, especially as I'm taking a look at the documentation provided, which does in fact show that his vehicle was towed on that reported date of November 3rd. And we see the invoice for the work that very next day, November 4th. How about that, my birthday? And of course, we do know that Kilvert Street was in terrible condition at that time. I saw a couple other hands raised, so I'll yield.
Any comments from the committee? Any comments from the council? Councilman Howe.
Thank you. And I wanted just to jump on. I heard you making a motion. I thought, I just wanted to say thank you. I did speak to this Warwick resident. We spoke on this issue. He's a constituent that lives in my ward. Kilvert is in my ward. And he did discuss this with me, and I appreciate and thank the committee and you, Mr. Chairman, for doing the little bit of extra research and realizing that this is a valid claim. Thank you.
Part of our job. Any other comments from the council? Seeing none, any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Mr. Walsh, do I need to vote on each individual one or just at the end for all?
We take a vote on each individual one.
That's what I thought.
And items that stay as part of the consent calendar as long as they're favorable. Anything that's been modified in any way would be dealt separately.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for favorable action in the amount of $300?
Move for favorable action in the amount of $300.
Councilman Rick, seconded.
Second.
Councilman McElroy, all in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you're muted.
Why I did that. There we go. I'm sorry. The second is Joan Naklin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This was recommended for denial, and I'm asking for a motion for approval in the amount of $300. And that's because according to the dates I looked at, I know there's a 7-day window, but this was 13 days. And just so the committee knows, I'm going to be looking at docketing something that says 7 business days. Because what I'm reading, it says 7 days. That's not telling me whether that's calendar days, business days, or whatever. So I want to clarify that down the road. But I would ask for favorable action. Councilman Walsh, are you trying to say something to me?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I just
Counselor.
wanted to let you know that the 7-day period is prescribed in state law. So we're fixed on that. I think the deference that you're looking for here is, especially given the modifications to the process during COVID, gives with a finding of fact by the council, it gives you some discretion about if the city changed its practices in such a way, such as limited access to City Hall, for example, and those play a role. That finding of fact can help evidence you how to deal with these unique circumstances that are presented to us tonight on timeliness.
Thank you for the clarification. So again, I'm looking for a motion for favorable action, but should I get that first, Councilor Walsh? Thank you for helping me a lot tonight. Yes, a move for favorable action in the amount of $300. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilman Rick seconded.
Second.
Any comments from the committee? Any comments from the committee? Any comments from the council? Any comments from the council? Any comments from the public? Any comments for the public? Seeing none? All in favor of favorable action in the amount of $300, say aye.
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 The next one is Mark Paolilli. And this is recommended for a no, and I am looking for a motion to uphold that recommendation. Do we have a motion? Councilman McElroy, I can't hear you.
I make a motion to deny it.
You gotta let
Seconded,
people comment first and whatnot.
comment for, okay, before the motions?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the committee?
Yes. So I understand that the administration recommended denial on this with a statement that as there was a weather front that came through the area on this date with significant sustained winds of approximately 25 miles per hour with gusts up to 46 miles per hour until about 6 o'clock p.m. that evening. As such, the city cannot be held responsible for an act of God, end quote. My issue with that grounds for denial is that it's not uncommon for there to be sustained winds of 25 miles per hour. It's not uncommon for there to be gusts of 46 miles per hour. Now, if the city has a hurricane and there's significant damage after a hurricane with winds sustained of 60, 70, however many plus miles per hour for is required to be defined as a hurricane or a severe tropical storm, or if there are gusts of, say, 80 miles per hour, 90 miles per hour. Well, when we're getting up to winds of those speeds, that's what I would more consider to be an act of God in the liability sense. When we're talking about a relatively mild storm, 25 mile per hour winds sustained, 46 mile per hour gusts, that's really not that severe. And when trees are coming down, trees that the city is responsible for, well, seems to me that the tree came down because there was something probably wrong with the tree. And then really the question becomes, should the city have known that there was something wrong with the tree? So at that point, because we don't have information one way or the other on that question, and aside from the question of whether there was anything actually reported by anyone to anyone at the city about that particular tree, which I don't know the answer to right now, there would be the question of, okay, even if someone didn't report it, then if someone just walking down the street took a look at the tree, would they notice that there was something wrong with it? Because while it's absolutely a best practice, and it should happen every single time that someone sees that something is significantly wrong with a tree that makes it pose a danger, they should be calling up the city, reporting it, and the tree warden should be coming on out and taking a look. We know that that doesn't always happen, and that doesn't in itself necessarily relieve the city of its obligations. So since, and I see that a couple of my colleagues have their hands raised, but to wrap it up and then let them speak, at this time, my inclination would be to hold it for further information, see if we can have the claimant come on, give us a little more information. And that's not to say that I would necessarily be in support of if he provides the kind of information that I'm asking about. I wouldn't necessarily be in support of the full amount, but I think that we should have that opportunity for him. We should hear more on that topic. And then if we have enough on that particular question of notice and of that really that liability question, then we can take a look at the damages and examine those. I'll yield the floor.
Thank you. Councilman McElroy, do you have any comments?
No comments.
Okay, any other members of the council with comments? Councilman Sinapi?
Just two, and I apologize in advance if I repeat anything Councilman Rick said. One, the narrative given to us says there's been repeated complaints about that tree prior to the incident. And in fact, a piece of the tree had previously fallen off. And they said the tree's rotted and that it still hasn't been taken down, and they're confused in that regard. And the other comment was some of the damage complained of seems a bit too attenuated for us to be fixing. Like, I get tree falls on something and damages it, fine. But tree falls on something and then several degrees of separation, something else is damaged, starts to get a little difficult. I guess I'll put it that way. But yeah,
A little Paul's graph.
Yeah, there it is. Law school humor. But that's it for me.
Any other members of the council have a comment? I'm seeing none.
Yes, no, Councilman.
Hi there,
Foley.
Councilwoman.
I have my hand up.
Travis. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted, I know you haven't been around lately, so I just wanted to enlighten you that a lot of times, many and each of the other council people had constituents that had problems like this, and we denied them. And because it was an act of God, and that's the request that came in from the main office, the Public Works request, that when it's an act of God, that we couldn't do it. And most people knew that. So many of us already said no to a lot of these. And I do kind of follow up with Councilman Solomon. This was a little far-fetched, a little when you start talking about a washer machine, so I agree with you, and you said you should deny it, and I just wanted to make that comment.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Just for point of information, because of what the background you just gave me. Is that the case when the city had been notified of the
A lot of times. I mean, I argued some of them that if they were notified and it was dated, they should have been out there to cut them. But sometimes the city would come back and said, we came back, we trimmed some, the rest of it's a very healthy tree, and we didn't have to do any more to it. I mean, I know West Shore Road, and Main Avenue, I mean, I've been after the state for them. Those trees are bad, and they're falling all over the place, and they're hitting cars, and that's terrible if they come back and say it's an act of God, because those are in poor condition. But again, I don't know this tree. I don't know if they actually, maybe we should hold it to get more information from Public Works. Did they have dates that they went out and look at that tree? I don't know.
Okay, thank you for your input. Any other members of the council? Councilman Lattiser, are you raising your hand? Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. So I just want to make an observation here. I know for certain that whenever any of our constituents contact us respectively for an issue in our respective wards, that we are going to go to bat for them, and we are going to take it to the wall to make sure that we do everything we can to have their issue taken care of, whether it be a pothole or a street light or a tree come crashing down. And I concur with that completely. As you know, we have all gone to the wall for our constituents when they've come to us with issues. My issue here is, or here's my feelings. It is not, in my opinion, our job to create the defense for any of these matters. I think it's the responsibility of the claimant to come before the city council and present their arguments, to present their reasoning and rationale for why a rim should be replaced on a tire, why on a car, why a tire should be replaced, or why a tree limb came down and did damage and the city should be responsible. I do not personally feel that is our job as members of the city council to present the defenses or the defense, unless, of course, it's a constituent that has contacted us, has reached out to us, and Councilman Lattiser, Councilman Howe, whoever. Listen, I got this problem, and I need help with it. Short of that, I think it's the claimant's responsibility to come before the city council as they would in any other legal entity, present their own arguments and their own defenses and their own reasonings why the city should be responsible for damage that has occurred. I don't think that it's our job to do it unless, of course, as I said, it's one of our respective constituents that has approached us to do that on their behalf. That's just my 2 cents in the matter. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, you're muted.
I keep doing that to myself. Councilor Walsh, were you trying to say something for me? Okay. Are there any members of the public?
Councilman Gebhardt and I both have our hands up.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, I can't see that on my screen. Sorry, gentlemen. So, Councilman Sinapi, I'll go with you first.
Just two things. One, I remember when I was chair, we did approve at least one of these where the tree fell and damaged something on somebody's property. The reason we did is because the city had notice and for whatever reason didn't get to it, and then something happened. But Councilman Travis has been here far longer than I, so I don't doubt that on probably many occasions it went the other way. The only other thing I was going to mention is I actually think Councilman Lattiser is spot on. And to remind the committee that if you guys move to deny, it's not like it's the end all or be all. All that means is it gives the person notice that you plan to deny them, and then this comes back again for them to come defend themselves and their claim, and then it's the end all or be all.
Thank you. Councilman Ricks.
I didn't have my hand up, but
I think
it was Gebhardt.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gebhardt, where are you? Councilman Gebhardt, my bad. Thank you,
Chair.
gentlemen.
Thank you, Chair. When I had reviewed the claims package, I had actually missed this one. This is actually one of my constituents. It did happen before my time here on the council. So, I mean, I would respectfully ask that I just get an opportunity to reach out to the claimant. Typically, if I knew it was someone in my ward, I'd just give them the heads up to come and tell their story here in front of this body. So that's on me. I had missed that, but maybe if there's any other information. I mean, he did a very thorough job in documenting his position, but I think certainly to have him up here would be helpful. So whether that's a motion to hold or a motion not favorable, and then he has the opportunity to come back one more time if that's how it works. I would say holding would be my preference.
Thank you. Any other councilmen or councilpersons who have a comment? I'm seeing none. Any members of the public? I would like a motion to hold till June, is it 19th? Am I correct?
21.
21. So can I have a motion to hold till June 21st, please?
I make a motion to hold to June 21st.
Seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
And Chairman, then we're going to
Moving
need to put a PCR on that, Len.
on. Oh, Lynn,
Yep, you need a PCR on that?
yes, please.
PCR
Yes, Lynn.
8821.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Lynn, could, for my benefit, 88,
Nope.
88,
8821.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Moving on to item number 4. This isn't, am I unmuted? Yes, I am. Matthew Brannigan. Again, this was one of those timeliness issues. I would like, any members of the committee would like to speak? No, seeing none. Any members of the council? Any members of the public? I would like to favorable action in the amount of $234 since the timeline was somewhat met. Do we have a
Second.
motion? Motion by Councilman Ricks, seconded
Second.
by Councilman McElroy. All in favor?
Aye.
Brian, item number 5, Brian Wager. This one here was to deny because there wasn't enough information. Any questions from the committee first? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, from the committee. Councilman Ricks?
I'll weigh in briefly. So what I'm understanding from the recommendation for denial is that the city is basically stating that they don't have enough information in terms of, and I may be interpreting this incorrectly if the administration would like to speak on this, but from what I'm reading, the sentence, I'll just quote it. The claimant has not provided sufficient evidence to determine that the reported incident is the responsibility of the city, end quote. And so when I read a statement like that, I mean, it's possible to read it more than one way, but how I would tend to read a statement like that from the city is that they're basically denying notice of there being a pothole on Nawsocket that actually caused this damage. And so I suppose that I would ask the particular counselor or any others on this city council who travel on Nawsocket about whether they've seen potholes out there on April 21st that could be expected to do some damage.
Council President McAllister, I see your hand.
Thank you very much. I can't say to that, but on that particular date, but we did just pave the end of Nawsocket last year, so we're moving our way up there. So we are addressing that. So I did not get a chance to speak to this constituent either. I would like to reach out as well if that's okay with the chairman.
I'd like a motion then to hold, and Council President McAllister will reach out. Can we have a motion to hold?
Move to hold to June 21st.
Seconded?
Second.
Okay,
Can I
need a
have a
PCR on it.
Yes,
It's-
please.
It's PCR 8921.
I had my hand up.
21.
I had my hand up, Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman, since you had your hand up and I didn't recognize, I'd let you speak on a held item. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Councilman. So, I guess I'll ask the question to the chair, because I don't remember when the notices are sent out or our notices sent out by the city to the claimants, advising them of their hearing date, as well as their right to appeal before the city council and speak on their own behalf regarding any particular claim. I don't recall what the status is on that. Excuse me, perhaps someone could just weigh in on that.
Councilman Sinapi, can I ask you to answer that for us from your previous experience?
So actually, the best person for that content of the notice would probably be Lynn or purchasing. But previously, they would get a notice of the hearing. The thing that we changed was the requirement to attend the hearing. And then with the caveat that if for whatever reason the hearing went south and their committee was planning to deny, they would be given another hearing date in which the notice would this time say, hey, we're going to deny you. So show up if you don't want to be denied, because we need to hear your side of the story. But again, Lynn are purchasing for the initial notice, or at least
So
it's
when the initial notice doesn't go out anymore, when you change the rules, it was only if you were going to hold it and deny them, then they would get a notice. So you're holding and denying, you're going to hold these so that our notice will go out.
So
Okay, thank you. Councilman Lattiser, what, does that answer your question?
Well, yeah, it answers the initial question, Chairman, but perhaps, it'd be a conversation for another day. But, we've been talking about for quite some time, shortening up the meetings, and the meetings take too long and blah, blah, blah. This is perhaps another issue that fills up the time dial on council meetings. And I'm wondering, perhaps while everything was very well intended, and I agree with the concept, I agree with why the changes were made, perhaps it may need to be revisited so that the respective party will have a clear understanding that while they're not required to attend, they should attend to present their own defense, if you will, or claims. I'm just seeing that, we're spending a whole lot of time creating a defense on these issues, and it may be a case that the claimant just, for some reason, doesn't realize that they should be here to do that work for themselves. Thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome.
if I may.
Well, can we hold your comment till the next item, because we've already held this to the 21st. So I'd like to go to the next item, and then I'll ask for your comment.
Sounds good to me.
All right, item number 6, Linda Radcliffe. It was recommended to be denied, but she missed the timeline by 1 day. So following what we've done in the past, I would like to move for favorable action. Before we do that, any comments from the committee? Seeing none, any comments from the council? Councilman Sinapi.
So all I was going to say is that, again, I actually agree with Councilman Lattiser, and last time we brought this up, I agreed then too. I don't necessarily agree to the method or what exactly he thinks should be tweaked, but I do think a tweak is necessary for the purposes of not having these sit on the docket forever. I do think we should put some sort of timeline, et cetera. Basically, we should look into it and figure out what to do, is in short.
Any comments on this claim from the council? Any comments from the public on this claim? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, can we have a motion for favorable action in the amount of $300, which is the maximum for a pothole. Councilman Ricks?
Councilman, if I may, I do see the invoice from New England Tire in the amount of $920.76. I see estimates of $185 and a penny, and another estimate of $267 and a penny. And let's see, perhaps I didn't look at this particular claim too closely before the meeting, but I'm trying to figure out exactly why the estimates are so much lower than the invoice, and if that applies with our rules.
When I looked at it, it seems to be the same problem we've had before, where they get the one that they're using, and then they go online because they need two more. And they're not comparing apples to oranges. So that is why I went with the $300 amount, which is the max anyways. They seem to have paid $920, which is way over what our award max is. That's my interpretation of what I read in this claim.
Oh, yes, yes. As I'm taking a closer look, I do see under the affidavit, as opposed to under the description of the injury, or rather the description of the incident, I'm seeing elsewhere where she wrote in that why she had to get 4 tires and how 2 of them were blown out. And so that all adds up in terms of these estimates only being for 1 tire as opposed to 2. I'm in agreement here for the $300, and I'll make that motion. But I do see that Councilman Howe, and this is Ward 3, has his hand raised.
Councilman Howe.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Thank you, Councilman Ricks. Thank you for taking my hand down. I would like to say something, and I think it's important that I go on record saying this, that we are discussing payment of money collected from the city through taxes to pay damage done to vehicles. And this is a gray area that I would really like us to discuss. The fact that we are giving a lot of people the benefit of doubt when they're going online, usually out of city, to get vendors from out of city, and they're just getting the price of the tire and not the cost of the installation and all that. And I want to keep in mind, or I want to bring up for future discussion, and something maybe that we could add to it, that there are a lot of Warwick businesses that do this job and pay taxes, and we really need to start maybe thinking about and going more towards instead of just trying to go online. I do realize people's time is important, but instead of just going online, getting a partial of something, and then we sit there and decide, well, you know, maybe they need a little more. There's also got to be a two-sided effort. If you're going to go and try to get reimbursement, get the estimates from the local companies that are contributing to the city through their business tax before we give them the benefit of the doubt and just automatically pay that out for a price quote over the internet that isn't full. Something just to discuss and think about. I thank you.
And I want to keep this committee meeting short and sweet also. But just to answer your point, and this is just from January till today, because that's when I've been back on the council. And it seems like communication is the key when they submit the claim, because what's happening is they get the work done, or they need their tire put on so they can go to work tomorrow. So they go and have it fixed, and then they submit the claim and they're told, oh, you need 3 estimates. So what they're doing is, to get the estimate numbers 2 and 3, they jump on and find estimates for tires. So they're not so I'm agreeing with you that there needs to be a conversation, but it's not necessarily a conversation for just us being in the council or the committee on public safety. It's also to get that information to our constituents, so they, from the get-go, they know how to submit this. I agree with you. So we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
McElroy, thank you. All in favor of approval of Linda Radcliffe's claim in the amount of $300, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I believe that's the last item. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it is not. There's one more. I'm gonna go back to my regular agenda. PCO 14-21, ordinance restricting sale of firearms near schools and daycare. First passage, not drafted. Council President McAllister, are you on here still with us?
This was me.
Oh, there you, who's that? Who's
I
that?
am for the record, but
Councilman Snappy, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilman Snappy.
So the bad news is we need enabling legislation for this because state law does not allow for it. The good news is that I found at least one other, if not, and there's likely more states that have done it. So we have the language. It's not like we have to reinvent the wheel. So, but I plan to dock it tonight, potentially at least, if not next meeting, the request for the enabling legislation so we can get it done.
So are you asking us to hold this?
Yes, please. Sorry, should have led with that.
So a motion to hold till when, sir?
July, and I'm blanking on 19th, please.
Motion to hold till July 19th. Councilman McElroy, seconded.
Second.
All right, this is Councilman Ricks, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That finishes our business. The meeting ends at 6:50.
Sorry, silly question. Did we do John Sylvia's claim or did we skip that one? Or is that not before us until the full council? I don't remember.
I did not see that name.
That one was previously held.
There is no posted item on that, so
Oh, so it doesn't
Nothing
matter.
posted on that.
not in order to consider anything on that.
Alrighty.
Next up is the Intergovernmental Committee. This is Chairman McElroy, Councilman Snappy, and Councilman Foley. And you're in order to proceed.
Okay, let's see. It is
Chairman,
now-
before we move on to that, I'd like to follow up on Councilman Sinati's question. If I may.
Lynn has her hand up as well.
Council President, may I follow up on that?
Lynn has a question. City Clerk?
Hi, that's all me. I typed in 6:17 instead of 6:7, so we can hold that one till 6:21, if that's all right.
Hold which one?
Yeah.
The Sylvia claim.
So there's nothing on the agenda.
No, because I typed it in the, nope, I typed it in the spreadsheet as 6:17 instead of 6:7. 17 isn't anything. So it didn't flag for the meeting.
So there's no motion able to be made on an item because that's not before us, but.
Right, so
as we
I'm-
work on the docketing, it can appear on the next agenda as it was intended to be where it was, but we can't take any motions on anything. That's
No, I know. That's why I'm asking to move it to the 21st.
Can I ask my
No.
question before we move it?
just for clarification, it'll by default do that. But we will not take a motion to do such.
Right, it's a typo on my part. I own it. Sorry.
Okay.
Councilman,
Go
do you have
ahead,
a question
Councilman
for me?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So to follow up on Councilman Sinapi's question, so it is in our binders this evening with all the other stuff. So I guess based upon the comments from the clerk, we just disregard this it's in the binder by mistake.
No, it's not by mistake. It's in your binder because you held it. If I pulled it out, I would have to reprint it and put it back in your binder. So when you hold the items, they stay there.
Okay.
I made a typo. I own the typo. It'll appear on the June 21st claims docket,
Okay, so PCR 70-21, which was
not
held-
claims docket. It'll be on the public safety docket.
So PCR 70-21, which was held for June 7th, shouldn't have been here?
It's
that
a typo on my part. I put it in a spreadsheet as June 17th instead of June 7th. So it was
Oh.
a typo on my part. I
Got it.
apologize.
Got it, got it. Now I understand. Thank you.
Gonna cut my head off?
Oh,
No,
all good, all good.
But,
Thank you.
Let's, intergovernmental. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is now 6:54 and the Intergovernmental Committee is now, let's see. First order of business is PCO 10-21, an ordinance amending section 40-33 of the City of Warwick Code of Ordinances, adding additional penalties for unlawful use of unregistered off-road recreational vehicles and snowmobiles. First passage not drafted. Councilman Sinapi.
Yep, so this is the same as the last one concerning recreational vehicles. We're still waiting on the enabling legislation to pass, so we got to sit on our hands for now. So I like this held till July 19th, please. Did I get it right? 19th? Yeah, 19th.
Motion to hold till July 19th.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That passes. Second one is PCR 79-21, a resolution to the General Assembly in relation to computation of municipal employee overtime. Councilman Ricks.
Thank you, Chairman. So this has been in the news lately. I think that some of the characterizations of the issue, characterizations where, we're seeing some negativity around it. I don't see it necessarily in such a negative light. However, I do think that this is an issue that should be left to the collective bargaining process and the agreements between the various cities and towns and their collective bargaining units, as opposed to the state having carve-outs for one bargaining group on issues of wages, as opposed to, say, issues of public safety. And for those reasons, I think that this resolution will be helpful to clear the air on that issue, consistent with how the state and the cities and towns normally operate in these spheres. And of course, if anyone has additional questions, I'd be glad to further discuss. Thank you.
Any questions from the committee?
I guess questions and comments technically on my part.
Councilman Sinapi.
And I think just so you know, Councilman Foley, I think, wants to speak afterwards. So I'm starting to raise his hand. I know Councilman Gebhardt has a bill on this as well. I have a vague recollection of those contents. The whole point of having the two bills was so that they could be considered in tandem. Given that one is here and the other is not, I prefer to have both before us. But regardless of that fact, and I'm going to move the hold because of that. But again, regardless of that, the session is rapidly coming to a close. And we all know what happens at the end of session is that things just get shoved through, for better or worse, sometimes worse. This is the kind of thing we need thoughtful, measured consideration on, and input from more than just people rushing to get out of session. I don't want this rushed, far from it. And given the contents of Councilman Gebhardt's bill, it actually calls for this to be looked into, especially in light of other benefits or the lack thereof. That's going to take time. So after Councilman Foley speaks, I plan to move the hold. Or I could do it now, I guess, technically. Yeah, I can. Move the hold till July 19th, please.
I'm going to second and with a comment, and I agree with you that I was just asking for a point of clarification. I thought that's what Councilman Ricks was going toward. And you have my second on that motion to hold.
Okay.
So does that mean that there'll be no discussion on this by members of the council?
It's up to the chair, if I'm not mistaken.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
To preserve this, I move for the matter to be brought to the floor, asserting my rights as a city councilman who is the introductory sponsor of the matter.
Motion was made and seconded, and 2 votes in favor, 1 probably against. It's somewhat unclear, but.
Okay.
So a motion to hold was adopted. It is a recommendation from the committee. When it's presented before the council can accept the recommendation or not. But for the purposes of committee, the committee has made that determination at this time.
So on the full council floor, the council could take a vote whether to hear it or not.
The full council can accept or reject any recommendation from any committee that comes to them.
Okay.
Okay.
Item 3, PCR 81-21, a resolution in observance of cancer awareness, not drafted. Councilman Sinapi.
Right, so there's no rush on this bill because the month I think that it's in reference to is September. The reason why it's not drafted is because for those, I think actually everyone's probably aware, we've had legal counsel drafting an enormous amount of things lately. And I didn't want this to get just one more thing on top of everything else. Plus I want time to review it, frankly, and I need time for that. So I'd like to hold this till July 19th, please.
Motion to hold till July 19th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Next item is PCR 82-21, a resolution requesting the General Assembly review language in Rhode Island General Laws 28-12-4.1, overtime pay and its fiscal impact on Rhode Island cities and towns, not drafted. Councilman Gebhardt.
Let's hold to June 21.
If possible, the logic I use for Councilman Ricks is equally applicable, especially because, again, I want to consider these in tandem, and I'd prefer to be consistent.
Sorry, when was the other one held until?
July 19th.
So we're saying that couldn't be heard before then? Oh, because now it's been held?
Presumably, as Solicitor Walsh pointed out, the council can choose to reject the recommendation to hold on the other one.
All right, motion withdrawn with, oh, it's not my motion anyways. You can hold till the same date. That's fine.
Appreciate it. Thank you for understanding. Move to hold till July 19th, please.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I believe that is it. The Intergovernmental Committee comes to a close at 7:03 p.m.
Mr. President, proceed with the last committees or?
No, we're going to start the council meeting here, and then we will go back into committees after we have a guest this evening, and after that we will go back and finish out the committees. So I will call the June 7th, 2021 meeting to order. The following options are available to access this meeting. You may access or participate in the meetings using the Zoom application or a smart device or on a PC via the web at zoom.us and clicking on Join a Meeting in the upper right hand of the page. The web ID number this evening is 978-8786-9794. Again, all this information is also on our website this evening. Anyone wanting to participate via telephone only may call one of the following numbers. Non-toll-free numbers. While most mobile carriers do not place an extra charge on customers for toll calls, it is up to you to check with your carrier on concerning potential charges you would be responsible for. The first number this evening to try is 1-646-558-8656. The next number is 1-301-715-8592. The next number is 1-312-626-6799. The next number is 1-669-900-9128. The next number is 1-253-215-8782. The next number is 1-346-248-7799. Toll-free numbers from anywhere in the United States. You can join us this evening at 1-877-853-5247. The next number is 1-888-788-0099. The next number is 1-833-548-0276. The next number is 1-833-548-0282. Please note, if you're experiencing trouble connecting via a toll-free number, please try the next number on the list. Again, you can find all these phone numbers on our website this evening. You will then need to punch in the web ID number, which is 978-8786-9794 on your touch tone keypad. While everyone joining the meeting will be muted, if at the appropriate time during the proceedings you wish to ask a question, you may, if using a smartphone or a PC, click on the raise hand icon. The meeting moderator will then ask for a participant having raised their hand to be unmuted. After the question, answer, and any further discussion, the participant will be muted again and will need to click raise hand icon or punch in *9 to ask another question. If phoning in, punch *9 on the keypad. The moderator will indicate when it is your turn to ask a comment or a question. At this time, I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mr. McAllister,
Here.
Mr. Foley,
Here.
Mr. Gephardt,
Here.
Mr. Howe,
Here.
Mr. Lattiser,
Here.
Mr. McElroy,
Yeah.
Mr. Ricks,
Here.
Mr. Sinapi,
Here.
Ms. Travis.
Here.
9 present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, I'm going to call on Councilman Sinapi, who's going to introduce our special guest, who's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. Councilman Sinapi.
So our guest tonight is actually one of the many Warwick police officers who has gone above and beyond while on the job. They happen to be in my ward, so as you can imagine, I took special notice. He helped out a resident of King Street for no other reason other than the person could use the help. And not only is it greatly appreciated, but it should be recognized. And thankfully he is, not just by me, but others as well. And I figured he was more than deserving. And I'm going to let him say his own last name so that I don't butcher it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. It's Officer Karadimos. Yeah, I mess it up too myself, so.
Thank you very much, officer. And if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And officer, thank you so much for joining us. You and the rest of the Warwick Police Department, day in and day out, serve our community. We have the best department in the state, and we're all proud of you. And I know that is, you did that on your own, and you didn't know you were being filmed, and you just did it because that's the kind of person you are, and the kind of organization you represent. So, we are all proud to have officers like you, and the colonel has a great department, and we're so proud of the Warwick Police Department, and we really appreciate you for all you do every day. As we spoke earlier, tonight you're on duty right now, and we appreciate that, and we want you to stay safe out there and stay hydrated.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thanks for letting me come on.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Take care.
You too. At this time, I'd just like to make a quick adjustment and do general communications, just have a few general things to share with the council. Then we'll go back to executive communications if there's no objection to doing general communications real quick. So, all right, seeing no objections. I'd like to announce that the next council meeting, we will be back in person in the beautiful Warwick City Council chambers. However, we will still be offering to do the meeting on Zoom as well. So if residents are not comfortable coming into the council chambers and would like to participate, Zoom will also be an option. I have to really give thanks to our MIS team and Phil and Chris. First of all, they're the reason why we were able to have these council meetings the last year plus, making this happen. They have worked on a plan to be able to get us back safely, but also complying with the governor's executive order, which we are still under at this time. The governor's executive order provides that we still need to have that alternative way of allowing people to participate, which we use as Zoom. And Phil and Chris, they made that happen. And so I just really want to thank them. I hope people will work with us. That'll at the next meeting, about our first time back. There may be a few bugs here or there, but I think this is the best way to do it. We're following all safety protocols. We're following the executive order of the governor's office, but I think we're all excited to get back. We have a couple of new council people that get to sit at their chairs. We'll get to see each other in person. And I think this is a good thing, but it is because of our great MIS department, who I can't thank enough for that. So plan on the next council meeting. The council will be in person, but we will also be providing the meeting on Zoom, and you will be able to ask questions and participate via Zoom. And that will continue until the legislature comes up with a new law or the governor's executive order ends. So we were going to provide this. I believe it's something that we all agree should be part of our meetings going forward, one way or the other. So I just want to thank the MIS department for coming through and working on us with that. And thank my colleagues as well, and the attorneys and the council liaison and all the department heads and all the constituents. I know it was new. I never heard of Zoom until March of 2020, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. And we all made it work, and so I really appreciate everyone's patience on that. And then I just have two other quick notes. We did, the city of Warwick raised the Pride flag today in Warwick. It was a great event that we did. The city council, we're going to be docketing later tonight, making June Pride Month. We have a resolution, but we wanted to get the flag up there. So we worked with the mayor. We had some unbelievable speakers that tell their personal stories today. I know the city recorded that, so I hope if you weren't able to attend, you'll be able to watch that. That was really great. And then my final comment this evening, and then I'll open it up to my colleagues for general communications, is I just asked for a moment of silence for Lori Hogan, who passed away last week. She was a Warwick teacher, an elementary school teacher. She was actually a classmate of mine at Tollgate. She passed away unexpectedly after a battle of cancer. She has 2 young children and a husband, longtime Warwick residents. They live in Cranston now, but a Warwick teacher. I knew her as Lori D'Antuono, when I went to school with her. So I just asked for a moment of silence on behalf of this great public servant. Thank you very much. Do any of my colleagues on the council have anything under general communications? Councilman Foley.
Just to follow up on what you just said, my thoughts and prayers go out to the family. I knew Greg Hogan. He was friends with my boys, and I coached Greg in CYO basketball. And it was a surprise and sad that Lori passed so quickly. But thank you for the moment of silence.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments under general communications? Okay, hearing none, we're going to go back into back on the agenda to executive communications. And I am really excited to have our guest here this evening. This is part of our the City Council's new motion to try to get more voices being heard at council meetings. There's a lot of great things happening in our city. So we are inviting different boards and commissions and different nonprofits that serve our Warwick residents to come and speak to the City Council. They have a full audience here. We're not going to ask any questions. We're going to take in the information and we're going to follow up. I want our speakers to, give an overview of all the great things that you're working on. And then I always say, have an ask. I have an audience here, have an ask. And this evening, we're going to have Paul from the president and CEO of the West Bay Community Action. I, full disclosure, am a board member of the West Bay Community Action, so I know of all the great work that they do, but I want to really put a highlight on this. And Paul, if you would like to unmute yourself, and we'd love to hear from you this evening.
Thank you, Councilman, and thank you to all the council members of Warwick. Hi, Donna. Long time no see. I just want to thank Steve so much for this opportunity. It's been, I think, a crazy 15 months for many of us. Like you were saying with the Zoom and everything else. Same thing with the West Bay Community Action. We've been a staple in Warwick for over 55 years. We primarily are one of the largest social service providers in Kent County. We serve primarily Warwick, West Warwick, East Greenwich, and Coventry, but some of our programs do go statewide. We currently have one of the top 2 food pantries in the state, and that's where I really want to start out with. Our food pantry, with help of the previous administration under Scott Avedisian, we developed our own marketplace on Buttonwoods Ave. We recently just moved 2 days before the pandemic hit to a brand new facility on Jefferson Boulevard, 487. And since that time, just from April 1st through the end of March, we served emergency food, gift cards, bare essentials to over 40,000 individuals in that time frame. While we were also doing that, we also started a food delivery program about a month or 2 before the pandemic started, that we deliver fresh produce as well as emergency food to disabled and homebound people of Warwick, West Warwick, and East Greenwich. That's just a few of our programs. Like I mentioned earlier, we're a social service provider. We provide everything from WIC services for newly pregnant moms up to children of age 5. We have one of the best adult education programs in the state of Rhode Island, which is outcome-based. We're a provider of heating assistance, which we provide heating assistance to about 4,000 households per year. We provide weatherization services. We provide childcare, which we have a childcare facility on Astral Ave that we serve from infants from 6 weeks up through age 12 in a before and after school care. We have a tremendous case management department that we do everything from being a certified lead center to working with the local police departments with elder abuse cases, St. Elizabeth's for abuse cases as well. But we also work with Office of Healthy Aging with a lot of the seniors that need help. We have financial literacy, we have EITC. We offer over 45 to 50 different programs. But more importantly, we serve annually about 22,000 unduplicated clients per year. Just from Warwick, that's about 70%. So about 15,000 of your constituents, your residents, come to us for the much needed help that they need. And a lot of the help that we give them isn't a handout, but a hand up. Over 50% of our households have some sort of employment income coming into them. We're no longer just focused on poverty, but we're working with the low wage earners, the underemployed. We work with those families of four that they have two small children. Mom stays at home because it's cost effective, but the husband's making $30 an hour and they still qualify for many of our services. We work with both state, local, but I have to say we have a tremendous partnership with the city of Warwick. Both previous administrations with current Mayor Picozzi, Bill Facenti of CDBG is phenomenal. During the pandemic, one of the things that our agency and myself thought of was thinking proactively with water bill help. So we utilized application with CDBG COVID money to assist Warwick residents specifically with utilities, but even more specifically with water utility help. Because as people were home 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they didn't realize that water bills would go up, sewer bills would go up, as well as electric bills would go up. And a lot of times our clients are living paycheck to paycheck. And for us at West Bay, we never shut down. We've been open during the entire thing. We followed the state's orders with reduced workforce. I'm happy to announce that we're 100% back in as of June 1st. And what I'm even more happy about is the beautiful 20,000 square foot facility that we have. We're actually at full operation. The only thing that's currently still remote is our GED or adult education program. And that's because we want to finish out the school year the way we started the school year. But even going forward, just like Councilman McAllister said, we're thinking of a hybrid model going forward to give more access to those people that have difficulties with transportation. For us going forward, some of the biggest needs that we see in the community is a continuation of our Can of Peas program, which is our home delivery program that we take. We also, to piggyback that, we also run Barton Farm. We have our farm, we produce about 25,000 pounds of fresh produce a year at Barton Farm that we get on a no cost lease from the city that we give right back to the community, either through our food bank, home delivery, or we also offer farmers markets, both at the senior complexes and also on site. Our Can of Peas program was founded it was just recently in the Warwick Beacon as well. It was founded under a case manager who went to an elderly person's home and noticed that she only had one can of peas in her cupboards. She was too proud to ask, nor did she know to ask, and she was also homebound. So we reached out to EOHHS. We're part of the West Warwick HES, where we secured little funding in getting this program off and running. What started out as about 30 or 40 clients on it, we're now reached over 150, where we have a community health worker that goes out to the people's homes, both does an assessment in their homes, as well as ensures that they have the proper nutrition. A lot of these folks, this is the only source of socialization that they get. Our goal is to help them stay independent in their homes. So if there's anything the city has that could help continue this program, that would be great. For us, we do a lot with leveraging. We get something that's called Community Service Block Grant money, which I know Councilman McAllister hears a lot about being on our board, and say to it, Councilwoman Donna Travis, who's also on our board at one time. The agency gets about $300,000. We leverage that with about $17 per $1 of other funding that we can expand services and so forth. Currently, we have just under 90 staff, full-time and part-time at West Bay. I took over as president and CEO 7 years ago, and our workforce has grown from 64 to about 87 right now. And a lot of it is based on community need and how we see. The other piece that we would like to be a partner or even ask if we could be of assistance is in regards to the Juvenile Hearing Board. We have a staff person, actually my director of administration, Jenna Teets, who sits on that, and with the retirement of, oh boy, the retirement of the person who oversaw it, we would love to offer West Bay's assistance in that area, because West Bay offers a lot of opportunities to the juveniles in volunteering support, in helping us reach out to other nonprofits that offer volunteerism, but also in some cases too, depending, they may have to do some restitution as well. And not only West Bay, but there's other good nonprofits. But we would welcome the opportunity to assist the city in getting that back to where it really was pre-pandemic. So that's pretty much all I have in a nutshell. I just do want to say thank you to each and every one of you all. What you do on a day-to-day basis, it might go unnoticed, but as a nonprofit in Warwick, we truly do respect everything that you do. To Councilman McAllister, again, I can't say it enough. Thank you so much for being on our board of directors. It's truly appreciative. You bring a side that is truly beneficial to the residents of Warwick. Thank you.
Paul, thank you very much. And we really appreciate all the great work that you and your whole organization do. And just for my colleagues on the council, please use Paul as a resource. They serve our community, and you heard him from childbirth to your senior. There's programs that they work on, and they connect people, and they really do care. So Paul, we really appreciate you coming with us this evening. And West Bay does great work for our residents. Also offer heating assistance, but I don't think we'll get any applications this week for that. Paul, thank you so much for joining us, and please keep up the good work. And I saw Councilwoman Travis and a couple other colleagues writing down your notes there for your ask. So I'm glad. I told you to have a couple asks, so I appreciate you doing that. So
thank you everyone so much. And again, just like Councilman McAllister stated, if anybody needs to get in touch with me, Councilman McAllister has my cell phone. He has my email. Please don't hesitate. My phone's on my hip 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And again, if it's anybody if we're in need to help a constituent, please reach out, because we have the means to do it. So thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your meeting.
thank you very much. Have a great night. Thank you. At this time on the agenda, we are going to go back into committees. And we are going to finish off committees, and then we're going to come back into the regular council meeting. Thank you.
Next up this evening is the Appointment Committee. This is Chairman Gephardt. In your order, proceed.
Thank you, Counselor. I'm looking for Councilman Ricks, Councilman Sinapi. I see you both. You're both ready to go. Okay, great. First up, acceptance of minutes. There are none. I should mention it's 7:27. Appointments comes to order. We have one appointment that we will hear this evening in committee. We have several others that will be announced as part of the council meeting when we get back to that. So our first appointment up this evening is Paul DiPetrillo to the Zoning Board of Review. Mr. DiPetrillo is currently on the Zoning Board of Review. The paperwork appears to all be in order. Mr. DiPetrillo's bio is attached. He's an active member of the community, served honorably in the military, as well as in the community, both on the zoning board, also on the Patuxent River Authority. And I think he'll be a fine addition to this board. Do any members of the committee have anything to say or any questions on this appointment? Councilman Sinapi.
I want to say that Mr. DiPetrillo has done an excellent job thus far, and he constantly is staying abreast of various city business and issues in the neighborhood, which helps him in his duties on the zoning board. And I have nothing but good things to say about him and his character.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Ricks.
An excellent person, highly qualified, does so much in the community, and is there, is active, and takes those phone calls, is able to respond to concerns. At the end of the day, we might not agree on everything, but I can trust that he does his due diligence.
Thank you, Councilman. I will open it up to members of the council. Councilwoman Travis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to add my support to Paul DiPetrillo. I know he's a hard worker, and everything that he does, he really works to 100% of it. And I know he's been doing a great job where he was at the zoning board and the Harbor Commission, but I think this is going to be a good place for him to stay right now. So I definitely have my support for Paul. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Lattiser.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I also want to echo my support for Paul. I also want to thank you for your service to our country, Paul. You certainly stand alongside of the proud and those that have come before, during, and after your service. I have paid particular attention to the Zoning Board of Review ever since I been on the City Council, and I think you apply a very common sense yet professional and methodical approach in making your decisions, both for and against any zoning appeals. And as Councilman Rich said, there has certainly been times that you and I disagree on perhaps some of the issues, but there's one thing for certain: we have always respectfully disagreed. We can shake hands after the disagreement and move on to the next issue that we may agree on or may not agree on. I think you've done a good job on the zoning board, and I will be supporting your reappointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman McElroy.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I would just like to say that Paul has done an excellent job on the board for years. I know him personally, and he's a great person. He will continue to do a great job. I think he is a perfect person. I will wholeheartedly support this reappointment.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Howe.
Thank you so much. I do have some comments, but I do notice that Councilman Foley, who is representative of the ward that the nominee lives in, has been raising his hand. So respectfully, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to yield at the time to Mr. Foley, and I respectfully ask you come back to me.
I'm more than happy to. Councilman Foley.
Thank you for that deference there, Councilman Howe. Just speaking in favor of Paul DiPetrillo, once I won the primary for a Democratic nomination, Paul was the chair of the ward committee, is the chair of the ward committee, and has been nothing but supportive, full of advice, and we have developed a friendship. And luckily, I have not had any items in front of the Zoning Board of Review, so I can't speak to that aspect of his personality, but I'm sure he approaches that job as he does everything else with integrity. Thank you. So I'll speak in support of Paul.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Howe.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be brief. I will say that I've gotten to know Paul over the years, and what everyone else has said, I find that Paul, if you say I need a hand, he's the first one of the first to extend his hand. Paul served honorably and proudly in the United States Army. Paul has volunteered on numerous events, non-political, community-involved events. He's always ready to have the time, and he's always willing to give you the relaxation of the humor, if you will, when in a tense situation. I think the world of Paul DiPetrillo. I appreciate the homework he does. I appreciate the time he takes, and the ability he has to be able to assess and even maybe admit where he needs to show improvement. And that's one thing that I've always admired about Paul, and I see every day, and I will be supporting this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you all for your words. Was there anyone else from the council? Did we hear from everyone? I think we did. Anyone else wish to say anything? All right. Any members of the public wish to speak on Paul DiPetrillo's appointment to the Zoning Board of Review? I do not see any raised hands in the attendees. So at this point, I would entertain a motion for favorable.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Ricks. We've got a motion favorable, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. That is all the business before us. Let me just triple check. That is all the business before us. It is 7:35 p.m. and appointments closes our business.
Finally, this evening, we have the Public Properties, Land Use Committee and Community Affairs. This is Chairman Ricks, Councilman Foley, and Councilman Gephardt.
Very good. I see everyone here. The City Council Committee on Public Properties, Land Use, and Community Affairs comes to order at 7:36 p.m. We have 3 items. First 2 are Councilman Sinapi. Number 1, PCO 30-19, ordinance involving state law regarding unutilized commercial property. This is up for first passage, not drafted. Councilman Sinapi, when would you prefer this to be held to?
Trying to think. This is the one to the General Assembly?
This is an ordinance. Ordinance involving state law regarding unutilized commercial property.
Oh, all right. Hold to the next meeting, June 21st, please.
We have a request to hold to June 21st. Do we have a motion?
Motion to hold to June 21st.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Second up, also Councilman Sinapi, PCO 10-20, an ordinance relative to amendment of the Warwick zoning ordinance, regulations for the installation of solar energy system. Not yet drafted. What's your pleasure?
Lynn, this is the one we're spiking, correct?
Correct. You have 2 of them.
Where's the other one? It's just on the main.
The other one is under referral and advertising.
Got it. All right. So this one, I guess, would request to withdraw, please.
All right. We have a request to withdraw. Do we have a motion?
Motion to withdraw.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Or actually, as it's being withdrawn, I believe that we may need to have public comment. So hold that motion for a moment. Do we have any members from the committee or the council who wish to speak on this? Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on this? Any members of the public wish to speak on the withdrawal of PCO 10-20, an ordinance relative to amendment of the Warwick zoning ordinance regulations for the installation of solar energy system? All right, seeing none, we may proceed with the vote. All in favor of withdrawal? Aye.
Aye.
All right, and then last up, we have, this is Councilman Lattiser as the lead sponsor, PCR 42-21, a resolution in regards to designating a date to be determined Joe Gallucci Day in the city of Warwick. Not yet drafted. Councilman Lattiser, would you prefer to hold to July 19th or a different date?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we're getting closer. Let's try for July 19th.
All right, we have a request to hold to July 19th. Do we have a motion?
Motion to hold till July 19th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, the City Council Committee on Public Properties, Land Use, and Community Affairs adjourns at 7:39 p.m.
I believe that is the last committee. You just give us a minute here to get the notes. Okay, I'm going to reconvene the City Council meeting. If you are just joining us, we have done roll call, the salute to the flag, executive communications, and general communications. There's no acceptance of the minutes, so we're going to move on to number 1 on the agenda this evening, which is announcements of appointments. Councilman Gephardt.
All right. Thank you, Council President. First up, to the Building Board of Appeals, Joseph Bucci of Ward 8, with a term to expire January 1st, 2024. Next up, to the Planning Board, Kevin Flynn of Ward 6, with a term to expire January 31st, 2025. And next up, Ashley Anicelli Cullion from Ward 9, with a term to expire January 31st, 2022. And that is all.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Number 2 is appointments requiring confirmation. There is one for the Zoning Board of Review Committee report, appointments.
Council President, the committee recommends favorable action.
Okay, for action, Ward 1, Councilman Foley.
Move favorable action on the appointment of Paul DiPetrillo.
We have a motion for favorable, second by Councilwoman Travis, Councilman Gephardt, Councilman Howe, Councilman Ricks, Councilman Lattiser, Councilman Sinapi, Councilman McElroy. Any additional questions or comments on the reappointment of Mr. DiPetrillo? I would also like to offer my support for him as well, and thank him for his service to our city. Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser,
Yes.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis.
Yes.
9 yes for the appointment of Mr. DiPetrillo to the zoning board.
Thank you very much, and congratulations, Mr. DiPetrillo. Next up on the agenda is number 3, the consent calendar. First up is PCR 84-21, resolution relative to bids. Committee report, finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item number 1.
Councilman, if you want to
yep.
move it first. Yep.
Yes, sorry, thank you. I always jump the gun. Move favorable action.
For action, Councilman Howe.
Thank you. Move favorable action. Move for favorable.
And
PCR
second by
84-21.
Yeah, second by Councilman Lattiser and Councilman Foley. Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item number 1, 2020-036, disposable of solid wastes and recyclables. Item number 2, 2022-050, municipal support and update licensing. Item number 3, I would respectfully, Mr. President, request that people mute their as it's coming back at me. Thank you. Item number 3, 2021-373, State of Rhode Island Catch Basin Cleaning Video and DVD. Item number 4, 2021-117, workstations, laptops, tablets, printers, and computer peripherals. Item number 5, 2021-370, ARC GIS desktop basic licenses. Item number 6, 2021-371, SAN update services. Item number 7, 2021-051, PACE training and related travel expenses. Item number 8, 2022-052, web hosting maintenance and CAMA software maintenance. Excuse me, I had this cough all day. Item number 9, 2021-346, less lethal shotgun and accessories. Item number 10, 2021-348, OEM motor parts for Mercury Marine Motors. Item number 11, 2021-374, police vehicle repair. Item number 13, 2022-054, NK software and maintenance. Item number 2022-055, UFED software renewal, correction. Item number 15, 2009-280, East Greenwich Yard Waste Pilot Program. Item number 17, 2021-383, Pilgrim Senior Center Kitchen Repairs. Item number 18, 2021-384, Install Cooling Unit City Hall. Item number 19, 2021-372, State of Rhode Island Paint and Paint Supplies. Item number 20, 2021-382, State of Rhode Island Electrical Services. Item number 21, 2022-057, Municipal Recycling Facility Byproducts. Item number 22, 2021-320, Interior Painting of Pilgrim Senior Center. And item number 23, 2017-061, State of Rhode Island General Office Supplies, Toners, and Standard Paper. That is a consent calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Howe, and thank you for playing hurt. Are there any questions on the consent calendar? We do have a few that have been pulled off, but any questions on the finance consent calendar? And then we're gonna take it as one. Okay. Next up, we're going to, on the consent calendar, is resolution relative to claims. Councilman Foley.
Thank you. We had 2 that got pulled. Should we do the ones that were not pulled, that do not have the PCR numbers, correct?
Correct. We're just going to do what the ones that stayed on the consent calendars, and the ones that have PCRs, we'll do that after we go through the consent calendar.
PCR 85-21 consent calendar claims. Number 1, Thomas McGovern, favorable action, the amount of $300. Number 2, Joan Nakalin, amount of $300, favorable action. Item 4, Matthew Brannigan, the amount of $234, favorable action. And Linda Radcliffe, favorable action, the amount of $300.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Are there any questions on the claims that were not asked during committee? Okay, seeing none, we're going to take a motion for favorable action for the consent calendar. Are there any questions from the overall consent calendar that did not get a chance to ask during committees earlier this evening? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser,
Yes.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis,
Yes.
9 yes on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The consent calendar passes. Next up are items that were removed from the consent calendar. I believe there are two from the finance. Number one is bid 2022-015, committee report finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. That is now PCR 86-21, and it was voted favorable action with amendments.
Okay, could you move that, Councilman, and we'll get a second?
Move favorable action on PCR 86-21.
And second by Councilman Foley. Go ahead, Councilman Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. The PCR 86-21 was basically a typographical error. It was the ask originally was 10,000, where the actual request from the department was 4,000. So we made the correct amendments.
Okay, are there any questions on the amendment? Reducing the amount, the ask from 10,000 to 4,000. Seeing no questions, the clerk will call the roll on the amendment for favorable action.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. Foley, Mr. Foley,
Yes.
no. Mr. Gephardt,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser,
Yes.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis,
Yes.
9 yes to amend.
Thank you. The amendment has been moved and passed. Can you move the as amendment, Councilman Howe?
Move PCR 87-21 as amended.
Second by Councilwoman Travis. Any questions on the amendment? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action as amended.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser,
Yes.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis,
Yes.
9 yes as amended.
Thank you. The motion passes. I believe there was another item that was pulled off the consent calendar, bid number 2021-034, committee report finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, formerly 2021-034 is now PCR 87-21. The request, move favorable action as
Favorable
amended.
action as amended. Do we have a second? Second by Councilman Foley. Go ahead, Councilman Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendment was to increase this bid by $15,000 from $20,000 to $35,000. To increase it from $20,000 to $35,000 for obviously the HVAC repairs. This is an estimate that the department clearly explained. So any questions, Mr. President?
Okay, are there any questions on the amendment? Okay, hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action for the amendment from raising it from $20,000 to $35,000.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser,
Yes.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis,
Yes.
9 yes to amend.
Thank you very much. And if Councilman Howe would like to move as amended.
Move PCR 87-21 as amended.
Do we have a second? Second by Councilman Foley. Any questions on the amendment? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser,
Yes.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis,
Yes.
9 yes as amended.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The motion passes. Next up, that was pulled off the amendment, I believe, is from Public Safety. Councilman Foley.
Yes, we have PCR 88-21. I'm sorry, yes, 88-21 to be held till June 21st.
Okay, PCR 89-21 will be held to June 21st. And you have another one that was pulled off?
Yes, Brian Wager, I should have given you the name on the other one. That's PCR 89-21, held till June 21st.
We will hold PCR 89-21 till June 21st.
That is all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We will now move on to unfinished business. Number one this evening is PCO 5-21. An ordinance in regards to the authority of the council members regarding additional removal or significant alteration of streetlights. This is committee report ordinance.
Committee recommends favorable action.
For action, Councilman Sinapi.
I move for favorable action.
Do we have a second? A second by Councilman Foley, Councilwoman Travis, Councilman Gephardt. This is for second passage. Any questions on PCO 5-21 for second passage? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser,
Yes.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis.
Yes.
9 yes, second passage.
Motion passes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Number two this evening is PCO 15-19, Sub A, an ordinance regarding health insurance for city employees. Committee report ordinance.
Request by the sponsor to hold until July 19th.
Hold till July 19th. Number three this evening is PCO 30-19, ordinance involving state law regarding underutilized commercial property. This was not drafted. Committee report, public properties.
Hold to June 21st.
Hold to June 21st. Next up is PCO 10-20, an ordinance relative to the amendment of the Warwick zoning ordinance, regulations for installation of the solar energy system. This was not drafted. Committee report, land use.
Withdraw at the request of the sponsor.
Okay, we'll do a voice vote on behalf of the sponsor. He's asking to withdraw. All those in favor of withdrawal, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Any abstentions? The motion has been withdrawn. Number five this evening is PCO 10-21, an ordinance amending section 40-30 of the Warwick City Code of Ordinance. This was not drafted. Committee report, intergovernmental.
Hold to July 19th.
Hold till July 19th. Number six this evening is PCO 11-21, an ordinance amending section 10-8 of the Warwick Code of Ordinance. This is also not drafted. Committee report, ordinance.
Hold till July 19th, please.
Hold till July 19th. Number seven this evening is PCO 14-21, an ordinance restricting the sale of firearms near schools and daycares. This was not drafted. Committee report, public safety.
Hold to July 19th.
Hold to July 19th. Number eight this evening is PCR 42-21, a resolution in regard to designating a date to be determined for Joe Gallucci Day in the city of Warwick. Not drafted. Committee report, community affairs.
Hold to July 19th.
Hold to July 19th. We are now under new business on the agenda this evening. PCR 79-21, a resolution to the General Assembly and relations of municipal employee overtime. Committee report, intergovernmental. Councilman McElroy, you're muted.
Hold to July 19th.
Okay, I see that we have a hand up. Councilman Ricks.
I would like to debate this and have a vote on the floor, but before discussing the substance, I would say that there is one, well, I suppose a pair of typographical errors that I would like to correct so that we can take a look at the substance as intended. So
hold on one second, Councilman Ricks. I just want to make sure we're doing everything in the right order here. So to Mr. Conley, The recommendation from the committee was the hold to July 19th. That was a recommendation. A councilman has asked for a different thing. What is the best way to proceed? Should we take a vote on the motion to hold, or what's the best way to proceed?
So, as you've done already on a few matters on the calendar, Mr. President, where the recommendation to hold has come from the committee, you essentially accepted that recommendation. You now have what I would characterize as an objection to that recommendation before you. So that really is an objection to unanimous consent to hold. So the first matter before you at this time, therefore, is to take a vote on whether or not to hold before you can discuss the substance of the proposed legislation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Conley. So the clerk will call the roll on the motion to hold PCR 79-21 till July 19th.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Gebhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser,
No.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
No, and as a point of order, I would say that I think that we should have an opportunity to discuss.
Let's let the
the
clerk
vote to hold.
continue the roll.
Yes.
Ms. Travis.
Yes.
7 yes, 2 no. The item is held.
The item is held to July 19th.
July 19th. Sorry.
Thank you. Next up is PCR 80-21, a resolution ratifying the City of Warwick's retirement system to engage in a lawsuit. Committee report ordinance.
Committee recommended favorable action.
For action, Councilman Sinapi.
Move for favorable action.
Do we have a second for favorable action? Second by Councilman Howe. Any questions on PCR 80-21?
Mr. President.
Yes, Councilman Howe.
Mr. President, I see that you are one of the sponsors. May I be respectfully asked to be added as a co-sponsor?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to be added as a co-sponsor? We have Councilman Lattiser, Councilwoman Travis, Councilman Gebhardt, now Councilman Howe, Councilman Sinapi, Councilman McElroy, and Councilman Ricks. I believe that's everybody. Councilman Foley. Thank you very much. Any questions? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action on PCR 80-21.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Gebhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser,
Yes.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis.
Yes.
9 yes, motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The motion passes. Next up is PCR 81-21, a resolution in observance of cancer awareness. This was not drafted. Committee report, intergovernmental.
Hold until July 19th.
Hold to July 19th. Next up this evening is number 12, PCR 82-21, a resolution requesting the General Assembly review language in RIGL 28-12-4.1. This was not drafted. Committee report, intergovernmental.
Hold until July 19th.
Hold until July 19th. We are now moving to referral and advertising, PCO 6-20, an ordinance amending to the zoning of the City of Warwick relating to the installation of solar energy systems. And again, that meeting will be in person at the council chambers, but also provided on Zoom for any interested individuals. We will now move to unanimous consent. First up is under unanimous consent as PCO 16-21, an ordinance regarding to modifications of the methods of calculating value exceptions. First question, is there any objections to hearing this at this time under unanimous consent? Yeah, seeing none, we will proceed. The administration asked me to docket this under unanimous consent for them. I believe it has to do with calculating the values in the car tax as well. Are there any questions on PCO 16-21 from the administration?
5 minutes.
Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion for favorable action.
Councilman Foley moves favorable. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Howe. Any additional questions on PCO 16-21? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action.
Sorry. Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Gebhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser. Mr. Lattiser,
Yes, sorry.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis.
Yes.
9 yes, first passage.
Thank you. The motion passes. Next up under unanimous consent is PCR 83-21, a resolution authorizing a lease agreement between the City of Warwick and the YMCA of Greater Providence, Kent County Branch for the use of Kent County YMCA pool by the City of Warwick and the use of the City of Warwick's McDermott pool by the YMCA of the Greater Providence, Kent County Branch until August 30th, 2021. My first question, is there any objection of hearing this at this time under unanimous consent? Seeing no objections, I will call on the sponsor, Councilman Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. This, as you know, was a request, something that was worked out with the administration, seeing that as the repairs to McDermott Pool were unknown, the extent and also how long it would go. It was basically a bartering agreement between the city, as you can tell, the city and the YMCA. I would also thank the council for hearing this. The sooner they get this done, the sooner our lifeguards can be trained and the sooner we can move forward with a regular life post-COVID. Mr. President, that's all, but I also want to identify that Councilman Sinapi, this is in his ward, so I welcomed him as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I spoke to Director Wiley this evening about this as well. And just as Councilman Howe pointed out, this is a shared agreement so we can train our city lifeguards so they can get certified. So when our pool is open, we will have lifeguards, and we're in need of more lifeguards if anybody is looking for a great summer job. But this is a shared agreement between the YMCA and the city, and the main purpose right now is to make sure that we have enough lifeguards trained and to be on the job. Councilman Sinapi, do you have any comments, as this is you're a co-sponsor on this?
I think Councilman Howe nailed it.
Okay, Councilman Lattiser.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Sorry, Mr. President. So I believe that this also allows the YMCA to use the McDermott pool as well. Do I read that correctly?
I believe that is correct. It's a shared agreement. Councilman Howe, if you want to confirm that.
That is correct, where the YMCA can, while they do certain things to their pool, they can have the operations at McDermott. There's no cost in this. Right. It's mutual use.
Sure. Okay. So while I see a contract in here between YMCA and the City of Warwick for use of their facility, I don't see a contract in here between Warwick and the YMCA for them to use our facility. Have I missed something in the contract that is here? I guess I'd defer this to legal counsel Conley.
And I just want to see if there's anybody from the administration that'd like to speak on this as they ask the councilmen to docket this as well. Is there anybody from the administration that'd like to speak on this?
If, Mr. President, with your permission.
Yep, and then we'll go to Mr. Conley.
Thank you. This is Councilman Howe. Tim Howe, I just wanted to say at the very first page, and I think I understand what you're saying, Councilman Lattisaur, but on the very first page, it says, where it says facility rental agreement, it identifies what the YMCA will get and then what Kent County gets on the very first page. Is that what you were looking for? Or are you speaking primarily about this last page of Exhibit A?
No, I just want to be clear that this contract rental facility, a facility rental agreement is reciprocal with the city of Warwick. So is this one in all? That's what I'm looking for legal clarification on.
Oh, I see. Well, it says, I'll be, Mr. President, I'll leave it to you. I can answer. I feel I can answer, but I'll leave it open for the solicitor to answer.
Well, let the solicitor answer the legal question.
Understood.
Mr. Conley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Yes, it is reciprocal. The language, the introductory language or the on the first page establishes it as a reciprocal agreement. The administration did prepare it, and at least one level, I would defer to them to identify, to explain their intent. But as I read it, it is a reciprocal agreement, and it is binding as to the reciprocity is binding as to both parties of the agreement.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Conley. I just wanted to have that clarified on the record. Should anyone else have a question on this? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Lattiser. Councilman Ricks.
Thank you. First, I'll just make a quick note that before we adjourn to the docket session, which is next on the agenda, I will have a motion to present. However, on this particular item, I just wanted to make sure to comment that I think it's a great thing that when something comes up, an opportunity like this, that we can docket it for unanimous consent and that we can give it a fair hearing, look at it on its merits, and make sure that something that's important, we can move forward as a body, making sure to respect all of our council members, every single member of this body, and make sure that they are heard, that they are respected, and that we all have those opportunities to present and ultimately have an up or down vote on matters that are time sensitive. And for that matter, this honorable body, the 9 of us working part-time, few of us having the same level of, in total, experience that some of the members of the General Assembly, for example, have. A body that has 75 representatives in its House, 38 members in its Senate, over 100 total members compared to our 9 members, as well as substantially more legislative resources. And so for those reasons, compared to a matter involving one sentence that affects the payment of benefits as opposed to
excuse me, Councilman, I just want to pause you for a second. You're on the PCR 8321.
Oh, yes. I'm saying that 8321, it affects public safety. This is an agreement entered into with the council approval, should it approve tonight, an agreement that the city is entering into that's affecting public safety, the training of lifeguards, with the Greater Providence YMCA and the Kent County branch, more particularly, as well as that collaboration with the use of both pools. Certainly, public safety lifeguards go hand in hand. We certainly don't need to be reminded of what happened a few years ago. We never want a tragedy like that to be repeated. And so I'll say that I think that this council is acting well inside its discretion in making sure that we, while making sure to do our due diligence and take our time to review this sort of agreement, a lease that's going to be in place for 4 months, collaboration, I would say that for all of those reasons, I'm very comfortable supporting this legislation. And I think that we, the city council, just as we should not underestimate the General Assembly, that would just be an act of arrogance on our part to pretend that we are far more capable than they. And I would certainly say that we are fully capable of educating ourselves, reviewing this, and approving this important piece of legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions from members of the council on PCR 83-21? Since this was not heard in committee, are there any members of the public that would like to speak on PCR 83-21? Any members of the public would like to speak on 83-21? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action on PCR 83-21.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Gebhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser,
Yes.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis.
Yes.
9 yes, motion passes.
Thank you. PCR 83-21 passes. Ward 1, anything under unanimous consent?
No. Pass.
Ward 2, anything under unanimous consent?
I have a motion pursuant to Rule 6 of this City Council's rules. Well, I see that a portion of it requires it to be in writing. So to conform with the writing, I would move that, as stated on this piece of paper, which now I'm seeing the mirror view of, I would move to hear PCR 79-21 per Rule 6, which means that I am invoking that pursuant to our City Council rules and agenda, that PCR 79-21 be heard at the August 16, 2021 meeting, if not before then, for a full vote by the City Council. And as a point of order, I would also state that Rule 6 requires, in relevant part, I'm looking at page 2 of the City Council rules, starting at, the paragraph begins at line 25, but the relevant part begins at subsection 4 on line 29. A motion to report the resolution or ordinance to the council as being held in committee for further study for 1 week or 1 month. The motion to hold earlier to July 19th is greater than 1 month. It was made without my approval as the sponsor, and therefore it should rightfully be scheduled for the June 21st meeting. However, I will waive that. Hearing on July 19th is probably the same difference given the General Assembly's schedule. However, I am most definitely invoking Rule 6 in that I want that matter to come before the council for an up or down vote no later than August 16th, if in the event it is not held, or excuse me, not heard by the city for City Council for an up or down vote on that currently scheduled July 19th, 2021 meeting. That's all. I yield the floor.
Okay, Mr. Conley, can you, do we need to take any action on that? And again, can I also ask another question? When we're in unanimous consent, is that a time to bring this forward or just for future? It's already forward, so we're not worried about that. But just when we move to a unanimous consent, there seems to be a lot of questions during unanimous consent when we're supposed to be docketing things. So 2 questions. 1, on unanimous consent, what is supposed to happen during that? And 2, anything we need to do this evening for Councilman Ricks's statements?
Yes, Mr. President. So as to unanimous consent, the matters identified on the agenda, they appear as unanimous consent, first of all, to comply with the Open Meetings Act. The only way you can take action by unanimous consent, even with unanimous consent, and actually take action on something is if it's identified on the agenda. So that's the reason why you identify your unanimous consent items on the agenda. Secondly, once it's on the unanimous consent agenda, it can be, and I hope I'm answering your question. I just want to make sure I put it in context. The unanimous items on unanimous consent may be blocked by a vote, by an objection to the unanimous consent, and a vote that would prevent it from going forward. So unanimous consent means exactly what it says, Mr. President. It means that you have to have unanimous consent. And that is, that action is really all that should be taken under unanimous consent as to those items and nothing more.
Thank you. That was my question. We seem to have a lot of questions during unanimous consent. So we are only going to be going forward. We are only going to entertain if you have something under unanimous consent or not during this portion. Now, the second part, do we need to do anything to address Councilman Ricks's at this time this evening? Because he did put it forward, so I do want to address it.
Yep. So, Mr. President, I'll tell you candidly that as I was listening carefully to Councilman Rick's presentation under Rule 6 and reading it simultaneously as he was referencing it. So this is what I understand Councilor Rick's motion to be, and if I don't have it right, he can certainly correct me. I understand it to be that pursuant to Rule 6, subsection small Roman numeral 4, that the councilor is making a motion to report that ordinance to the council as being held in committee for further study for 2 weeks or 1 month, and relying on Rule 6 from small Roman numeral 4. The council is making a motion that that specific ordinance be held for that specific time as identified in the rules, and that as a point of order, the previous motion was out of order because it did not comply with that rule.
If I may clarify?
Yes, thanks.
Oh, sure. So excuse the confusion there. I was pointing that we may have committed a violation of subsection 4, but I am formally waiving that as the primary sponsor. However, and I understand that the language of move is, this is not technically a motion in this session or otherwise. It's a matter of pursuant to the following paragraph beginning at line 32, that really this is just for the purpose of providing notice to the city council in writing as required, that I, as the primary sponsor, am asserting my demand that the matter be heard for a full council vote. Quote, I'm going to just quote the end of Rule 6. Vote by the council at the meeting scheduled 2 months after the meeting at which the request was submitted. end quote. And I did not intend to bring this up in the unanimous consent. I had noted at that last item that we were hearing that I intended to make a motion pursuant to Rule 6 prior to the docket session. But though my expressed that intent, we moved immediately into unanimous consent. So I felt the need to make the Rule 6 motion at that time. Thank you.
Thanks, and I'm sorry for not understanding it completely. So I do understand, Mr. President, that therefore essentially what the counselor has done is notify the counselor pursuant to Rule 6. What he just explained on the record will be followed by a written request in conjunction with the rule.
Okay, thank you. But how, and going forward now, under unanimous consent, when we're in here, it's either you have something or you don't. So we're going to move forward on that. So Councilman Ricks, just to confirm, do you have anything for unanimous consent this evening to docket?
No, thank you.
Okay, Ward 3.
Pass.
Ward 4.
Pass.
Ward 5.
Yes, Mr. President, I have more of a question.
Again, do you have something to docket or not? This is what we're going to do.
I want to ask a question about unanimous consent. Can I do that?
The question is, do you have anything to docket at this time, unanimous consent? This is not the time to ask all these questions.
No, I don't know if I have a question. That's what I'm trying to ask for, is an opinion as to what does that mean?
Councilman, we just went through this. At this time, it's either you can docket something on unanimous consent or not. Do you have anything to docket at this time?
So if I docket something under unanimous consent now, that will be for consideration at the following meeting?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I wanted to ask.
Okay. Do you have anything to docket at this time?
No.
Okay, Ward 6.
Pass.
Ward 7 passes. Ward 8.
I don't know. I have a question. I'm just kidding. Nothing.
You're very funny. Ward 9.
Nothing at this time.
Councilwoman Travis, please move to the docket session.
If there be no further business of this honorable body, I move to a docket session.
Okay, Ward 1, anything to docket this evening? And quick note to everybody that you need to get anything you're docketing that you want heard at the next meeting needs to get in by noontime tomorrow. So noontime tomorrow. Ward 1.
Nothing from Ward 1.
Ward 2.
Yes, one item with the understanding that someone else will be docketing the other. So the one item that I'll be docketing is a resolution recognizing Juneteenth, June 19th, as National Freedom Day.
Okay, anything else to docket?
With the assumption.
Yeah, I'm going to do that one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Something else.
Ward 3.
I'm sorry.
Anything to docket? Okay. Ward 4.
Pass.
Ward 5.
Pass.
Ward 6.
Yes, I have one. No parking in front of 20 Ottawa Avenue.
And we will
I
move
have a
that
traffic
to
study.
okay, public safety. And I don't believe we put Councilman Ricks's in the committee, so we'll put that in community affairs, Councilman Ricks's.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ward 7, I have one with a number of co-sponsors. I'd like to all raise your hand if you'd like to co-sponsor. The city of Warwick acknowledging the month of June as Pride Month. Co-sponsored by the council. So thank you very much. And we'll docket that. And that is all I have to docket. Ward 8, anything to docket?
Unfortunately.
Sorry, Councilman, I need a committee on that one.
Oh, we will do community affairs as well.
All right, sorry, thank you.
Oh, good catch.
So unfortunately, I got 3. First one, a resolution to the General Assembly in support of legislation allowing for the restriction of the sale of firearms in the vicinity of a school or daycare by any seller, except that any such sellers currently operating under such circumstances shall be exempt thereof at that particular location.
We will put that in intergovernmental.
Next, an ordinance relative to tangible property tax regarding vacant storefronts.
We will put that in ordinance.
And finally, a resolution in regards to amending the city council rules.
And we will put that into ordinance. Ward 9, anything to docket this evening?
Not tonight, thank you.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn by Councilman Foley, second by Councilwoman Travis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you very much. Great work, everybody. Thank you to the department heads. Thank you to the attorneys. Thank you to the clerk. Thank you to everyone this evening. Great work, and we will see you soon. In
Thank
person.
you.
Bye.
Yeah, see you in person. Bye-bye. Okay, good night.
Have a nice Father's Day, everybody.
Thank you.
You.
Same